Good. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order. Welcome to the Orville City Council meeting for March 19th, 2024. Announcement from closed session. Would you like to offer that from the city
Certainly,
attorney?
Mr. Mayor. As to both items, there was no reportable action taken, direction given.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I understand we have some helpers to do that tonight. All right, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
My name is Riley Murray. Thank you for inviting us to lead your meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. We are students from Ophir School. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance helps form a connection to our country, the United States of America.
My name is Charlotte Cortez. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we honor the flag and everything it represents. We are a country with diverse population. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance instills a sense of pride for all people.
My name is Jackson McManus. We say the Pledge of Allegiance to start our day at school, to begin official meetings or ceremonies, and we honor the flag at special events like ball games. We would like to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand, salute,
Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank you. So who's first? Jackson? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And Charlotte? Thank you. And Riley? We appreciate your time. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
That's a nice way to start a meeting, I'll tell you. Next item, adoption of agenda. I entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is presentation, the year-end fire report. Chief Tens. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, what you have in front of you will be the year-end stats report for 2023 for Orville Fire, CAL FIRE. And I'm going to go over some numbers. I'll try not to bore everybody tonight. It should be pretty short and sweet, but some of these numbers are important, I think, for council and the community to truly understand and see where the city fire department stands and the amount of calls and types of calls that our firefighters respond to every day. Okay, sorry about that. So these numbers here in front of you are total calls for all Orville resources combined and the types of calls that they respond to. So what I mean by total is whether it's county jurisdiction, CAL FIRE jurisdiction, Gridley's jurisdiction, Biggs, or anywhere like that. This is the number of calls broke down by type that our resources are responding to. And as you can see, we responded to 6,358 medicals, 161 structure fires, 253 vegetation fires, 1,014 other fires. Those can be an assortment of different things: garbage cans, big dumpsters, trash fires, mattresses, anything, just an assortment of different types of smaller scale fires. Hazardous condition calls are 178. Public assists could be anything really the public needs us to come out and do, whether it's help an individual back up or help them get out of a car or what have you, anything like that. 507. And assist law enforcement, this is specific to assisting OPD and assortment of different things, 2. And that's a total number of incidents for 2023 for Battalion 9, which is Orville City Resources, 8,473. And just to put a scale to that, it's kind of just a broad number. The county's busiest station runs about 3,000 calls. So we run probably 2/3 more than any other station in the county. Total calls for other jurisdictions, in-city and other jurisdictions. So total responses, 6,894. Medicals, 5,486. This is specific just to the engine, not the ladder truck. So I'm now breaking it down by resource type. So 5,000, the engine responded 5,486 calls, 98 structures, 132 vegetation fires, 664 other fires, and 125 hazmats, and 389 public assists, totaling 6,894. For the ladder truck specifically, response is a total of 729 calls. Obviously, this resource is not a first due. We don't run this ladder truck, our biggest piece of equipment, very often, but it kind of fills the void behind the engine. But it's ran 474 medicals, 10 structure fires, 10 vegetation fires, 99 other fires, 34 hazmats, and 102 public assists. Next slide. Please. So this is Oroville Chief Officers. So Battalion 9A, which is Matt Bergstrand, Battalion 9B's Isaac Reese, and Division 2106 is myself. A total of Oroville City Chief Officer responses 823 total. Battalion 9A ran 390, Battalion 9B 395, and myself 38. I'm going to work on getting my stats up next year. I apologize for that. Slide, please. So what you have in front of you here, this slide is an indication on assist to county, county to city, CAL FIRE, SRA, and vice versa. So Oroville City responses to Butte County Fire Department is 1,535 calls. Oroville City responses to CAL FIRE, which is SRA specific, not to confuse with Butte County CAL FIRE, just CAL FIRE specifically, 113 incidents. Butte County Fire responses into the city of Oroville assisting us is 2,577. And then CAL FIRE resources responding into the city's 1,328. Really, the picture that I'm drawing there is the cooperative aspect of helping each other. It's a little still out of balance because of station placement, but our numbers have picked up with assisting each other. Okay, and these calls right here are specific into the city's jurisdiction, city limits only. And this is a number of incidents broke down by incident type. In the city, there was 5,614 medicals, 24 structure fires, 58 vegetation, other fires 154, false alarms are 385, hazmats 2,402, or I'm sorry, 102, public assist 402, and then assist law enforcement. This is CAL FIRE RLE, and those numbers are a little bit high. That's not in the contract for CAL FIRE law enforcement to respond into the city, but there's incidents where some of our officers are going through FTO and stuff like that, and we're really looking for the calls for them to come in and get some arrests, if you will. And then total calls for city incidents is 6,762 total city-related calls, or in the city. And that concludes my presentation.
Council have any questions?
I have a question. Your false alarms, that's really it's rather high. I was just wondering, what is the monetary?
On the last slide.
Yeah. She's looking at 385, I think is what she's talking about.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Give just one or two examples of what a false alarm would look like.
False alarm could be a multitude. It could be a medical, it could be a fire. Typically, we see them with fires. So if there was an alarm sounding, so if a downtown business fire alarm went off and we
All
went
right.
there and we determined there was no fire, we're not going to document it as a structure fire. We'd document it as a false alarm. We did respond, so we record that stat, but it's a false alarm. We basically went there, determined that there was no fire, it's safe, and
And you're using approximately how much manpower? 4?
so an alarm
Is typical?
sounding call would be an engine in a truck and a chief officer. So we wouldn't send a full alarm, which would be 4 or 5 engines and a couple chiefs and safety officers and such. Alarm soundings, something like that, we would send a minimal amount of resources is what's built into the CAD. So an engine, truck, and a chief. And as far as for like a medical or something, maybe we get there and they determine they're okay and they don't need our assistance anymore, or would like to transport themselves or something, then we wouldn't log it as, that specific call type. It would be a false alarm.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Smith has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my question was actually, you stole my thunder.
I'm sorry.
But, because I was focused on that false alarm as well. So of the 6,762, obviously, the 385 comes out of that equation. But are we kind of like typical? Or is that a little high? And then the other part in my mind, I'm thinking, is that a full response, or in some cases, you're not even showing up and you get the, hey, it's a false alarm?
Yeah,
and
we
you're-
could be canceled en route. The 911 caller calls back and says that we don't need you anymore. Such and such happened. And then, sometimes we don't even leave the barn. But it does generate a report number for us in the system. It's just how it's labeled in there.
So it's not necessarily you've rolled up on the scene in every one of these cases?
Yeah,
so.
it could be, but yeah, no, absolutely not. Not every
Yeah,
single
yeah.
time. No.
And then as far as where we are against other municipalities, is it high, low, and somewhere kind of average?
Specific to false alarms?
False
Yeah, the
alarm.
false alarms, the
It's a pretty
385.
common call type
Uh-huh.
throughout. I think industry standard is pretty common for just to have issues with alarm systems or water flow systems, or if there's a water issue downtown and there's a sudden burst of water, might send off water flow alarms throughout some businesses, and we would respond and deem it.
So those backflow device kickoffs are included in this number as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. I have a question. Are you noticing any trends in the activity between locations in the community, or increases or decreases from last year to this year? Anything you could report about or be
yeah.
significant?
Yeah, coming up with like a 5-year stats is typically something that I would attach to this. But after the transition, there's 2 different reporting systems.
Right.
And our old reporting system it's troublesome to get into because we're only allowed to get in there for historical data, and we can only get in there so many times because we don't pay for their services anymore. But if somebody had a PRA or something, then we could get in there. But total call volume has significantly gone up over the last 5 years. I could say that with 100% confidence, especially since El Medeo's closed down. That's 1,500 plus calls right there that we've just picked up.
Yeah.
That engine's no longer responding to any calls, and somebody had to. And most of the old district is populated in the city. Most of the population's in the city portion of the district. So
Generates
it's
calls.
generated a lot of calls for us,
Yeah.
specifically there. So I could tell you, since they closed, that was 1,500 calls there. Plus, the transition to CAL FIRE was a boundary drop for our resources. So, the boundaries, there's no more boundaries. So if 91's needed anywhere, a city engine, it's dispatched, and
Right.
vice versa into the city as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, between those 2 things have brought it up, and just the population increase
Right.
for medical call types will increase as our populations increase, as we've seen with the census and such. So, but yeah, there's been a pretty significant. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I don't want to give false numbers, but I want to say 5 years ago we were running around 4,000 calls,
Yeah.
about 4,000, 4,500, something like that, and just in the city 6,700 specific.
And I know we've talked about this before, but the need for a station at the Thermalito or by the airport is obviously presenting itself just because of time and distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those numbers will probably be increasing with all the new homes built out there and that population, so.
They are, yeah, and I've ran some heat maps on, some of the locations over 3 years of where we're seeing the calls, and over those 3 years, you could definitely see more color being added as there's more development out there. There's more recreation in the airport and such like that. So there's a lot more activity out there, which we end up responding out there as well.
Yeah.
And it's about 7 minutes to respond from the city's current fire station.
Gotcha. Councilman Johnstone had a question. Oh, go ahead.
You answered it. I was just going to ask what your average response time is, towards the outskirts of the city, and you said basically about 7 minutes.
So we base all of our response times are based off posted speed limits. Obviously, we may go a little bit faster, a little bit slower, just really depends on traffic, but we base our response times off posted speed limits.
Thank you.
But in comparison, as you mentioned, the longer distance to the airport area, downtown, we're probably looking 3-4 minute response times, kind of like that, or?
Yeah, oh yeah, so majority of the calls are in the core portion of the city, and it's just really a big, blob of red, if you will, of
Yeah.
where all those calls have populated, and they are 90% or less of those calls are really generated around the downtown area and the core, around the city's fire station.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
So I do have one question.
Councilman Johnson. Goodson.
So we own our equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
And when there was the merge, CAL FIRE, well, right, so let me fast forward to the question. What is the percentage now that we have merged with CAL FIRE that our equipment is being utilized in other jurisdictions?
So that would go back to, I would have to compare, and I could compare like to last year because we have those stats within the contract, but before that, it would be hard to compare. But I would reference the numbers off that slide. I want to say initially, I presented a couple years ago, a growth plan for the city, and I think I had some of those numbers in there, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's true.
And our maintenance has increased.
Well, our maintenance, so it depends. And as soon as our vehicles go into reserve status, our maintenance goes way down. When we're running our front line, we're running probably 4,000 more calls than most any other station in the county, other than Chico, not talking about Chico, just in the southern portion of the county. A lot of calls creates a lot of wear and tear, on the vehicles, and those things are starting up in the freezing cold in the middle of the night and, just responding all over, up and down, throughout the city and all over. I think the numbers were in there on the amount of times we assisted each agency, but I don't have the exact numbers. Like I was referencing a report that I did a couple years ago that I think had some of those numbers. I'm happy to pull that up and find
I'm
it if you'd
good, we
like.
can always talk off
Yeah. Okay.
outside of the meeting. Thank you
I
so
should
much.
also make a mention that this council met on a special meeting last week, and with the help of our Amy Bergstrom over there, we applied for a grant to help us
That's
possibly
right.
purchase a new ladder truck, which we know is aged and is being recommended for replacement. But I just want this body to know that we has a special meeting just to have that, so we got the grant in place. And hopefully
right.
we'll be successful with that with the help of Amy, our housing folks.
So Amy, it sounds like you have an update.
I don't have the news I want to, but it's not bad. What I will say is that I was able to submit the application by 3 o'clock on Thursday. By 1 o'clock on Friday, they closed the applications. So if we had not had the special meeting, we
Right.
wouldn't have had any chance. So thank you so much for convening that quickly. So I emailed the state and they can't tell me, and I've been checking my email all day, but they did say they would announce it at the beginning of this week.
Okay. Well, and I personally want to thank all the council members that showed up on a special meeting, because that's what we're about here, so thank you all. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is public communication. Do we have any public sheets there?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. We'll begin with Janice White and follow that with Ron Whaler.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and all the council members. I was here last November. It was on the agenda for the bocce ball courts proposed out at the golf course. And I'm requesting, I have copies for all the council members of the plans for the courts. And at the bottom is also mentioning the cost. And I think you have, there's 8 copies, there may be one extra. Let me borrow that. This I have
Thank you, Scott.
as a sample, with only the sample
Thank you.
of the covering that we're proposing to use. I don't know if anybody wants to look at it right now or not. It's the only one I have. But I would like to mention, if you have any questions about that, Johnny Smith is here, who's going to be going to, I think, the golf course meeting here in just a few minutes. and to ask that this be put on the agenda. Anyway, I went over, and I was the one, excuse me, I was the one that had the 60 names of people that are still, and they're
That's
asking, what's going on? Is anything going to happen, out there? It takes time. But everyone, a lot of my friends have been asking, pickleball people and our bocce people have been asking
Okay.
about when this might be getting moving.
Okay.
I know it's going to take money.
Yeah.
No, I can review that. I believe it's already been brought before the council to approve the modifications, but I can go back and look in the records to
Right.
It
confirm
was
that.
approved that evening, I believe. It
Yeah.
was
Was.
unanimous.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was November the 7th, I believe.
Yeah.
That's why I was just asking.
Yes.
Didn't we take action on this?
Yes, we
You
did.
did, you did, but now,
So,
and
what-
I'm, don't know about all of this, so that's why I'm kind of fumbling around. I understand it needs to be put on the agenda. Is that correct, Johnny? Yeah. It needs to be put on the agenda for now.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I may be able to clarify a little bit here.
Okay.
We did talk with these individuals last week, and
Yes.
we will review the plans in the planning and in the engineering department just to make sure that there's no other additional permits required.
Gotcha.
So that they can begin construction without delay.
So staff has the plans and they're working on it and I'll get back to you, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for
Okay.
bringing this to us.
All
though.
right,
Yeah.
no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ron Whaler. And Mr. Mayor, just,
I wanted to add,
Yeah.
the carpet we're going to use requires no maintenance. That
good.
carpet is guaranteed for a year, lifetime.
Okay, good.
And I had something else on my mind, forgot as soon as I stepped up here. Oh, all the labor will be donated. We're going to do it ourselves. So
Excellent.
all the thing we're asking for is financing the material.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
And it's on the plans there.
Okay.
It is. Anyway,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
you.
that. Appreciate your efforts.
Mr. Mayor, we do have one online participant by the name of Anna who's raised their hand that would like to speak as well. So I'm going to give them that capability to submit a comment through Zoom.
Welcome, Anna. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we have you, Anna.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for having me. I just wanted to plug in the support for the museums. I would like to thank you very much for getting us a curator. It's been awesome having Heather around, and we really appreciate all the support. So I just wanted to plug in all the good work that she's doing, and hopefully we can get a little bit more help in the future for programs. But I just wanted to thank you all for supporting that endeavor, and I think our museums have been shining through a lot of the social media and a lot of the events we're doing. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate your comments.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah,
Up
thank
next-
you.
Up next, we have Brian Wong, followed by Ed Hall.
Welcome, Brian.
Good to see you, Brian.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. As you all know, we've been, working on the City of Paris project for quite a while. The vision for the building has always been to create like a work-share innovation hub for Orville to spark advances in innovation. So through our journey, we have crossed paths with Pastor Ed Hall. And currently, Pastor Ed Hall has been working with us on the project to see how we can actualize that vision. So with that said, there's currently a funding opportunity with a USDA grant. So I will leave it to Pastor Hall to tell you more about it.
Good evening, Council. Good evening. So the grant is set up to provide a innovation center, incubator, and providing training for people to become entrepreneurs, start businesses. Also, Workshare, that they're able to subscribe to Workspace in City of Paris building based on their needs. They get access to high-speed internet, phones, printers. They can subscribe by the hour, or if they're a business and they have a longer-term need, they can rent for a month. There's various subscriptions there. My part in that as well is bringing in a training center to get people certified in IT skills. We're taking anyone from 18 to 26 that has no IT background. If they're able to pass a basic literacy digital exam, they'll be qualified. Training is free. And at the completion of the training, we're providing the cost for the exam they take that is credited by the governing bodies, whereas Google, Microsoft, CompTIA, all the cloud providers. So the training, we'll be doing that, and then they'll take the exams. And once they pass, they'll be eligible for a 2-month internship that's paid by this grant as well too, that will be able to go out to our business. And the training is just not centered around IT. It's centered around well-being as an employee, customer service skills, learning how to contribute back to your community as well, and also to the company. So I'm going to work for a company. I need to know what that company is, what their mission is, and how I'm going to contribute to their bottom line, which we don't see today. It's hard to find good employees. So when our graduates go out, they'll be a well-trained employee, not only for our local businesses, but also throughout the county. A lot of the classes we're going to bring in, looking at being more innovative with that, with some emerging technologies. We're roughly cybersecurity. We're looking to bring in some AI training, which is kind of the wave of the future as well, too. So the basic training is a basic fundamental class that gets them the initial entry-level certifications, and then they'll specialize in their tracks, whether it's networking, voice, security, our my 3 minutes right out there with Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that's the training that we're bringing in, and the course that we're looking at is going to be 16 weeks, running 2 classes a day. So we're looking to graduate that number for a year. And the next step up is intermediate certifications, where even existing employees, if you want to send your employees to training, there's nothing local. You either have to go down to Sacramento or Redding or outside the area, depending on availability. Well, we'll be able to provide that training here in Orville, as well as a testing center. So that cuts down on travel cost and sending people out of the county just to take an examination test. So we'll be providing that as well. Also, what we're going to be doing is providing advanced level classes, such we call them boot camps. This is a 5-day class. We're bringing in a specialized trainer for the advanced certifications to provide that right here in Orville as well. So part of that as well is we're also teaching our employees to contribute back to their community. So we'll be taking computer donations. Part of that course is they'll be sanitizing those computers, rebuilding, refurbishing them, and then we'll provide it back to the community at no cost or low cost for our youth. We're also going to be doing teaching our young people how to code. So they'll, coming out now, their after-school program, summer, they'll learn how to program as well. An average programmer nowadays, it'd be pretty good. It's $140,000 a year, and you can work remotely. So we're going to contribute to the tax base here, sales tax, keep our young people here locally. Also, there's trades and industries that will come to Orville. They're looking for a trained workforce, and this will start providing that workforce development to have employees ready to go. As well. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Great information. Appreciate that. Bringing it to us.
Adopt this for the next meeting to do the approval for the grant request.
Okay.
So yes, we're asking for the city to become a partner with Pastorate Hall in the grant effort, because by having the city as a partner, it gives us a lot more credibility.
Could you please, because I want to.
Yes, we're asking the city to become a partner with Pastorate Hall on the grant opportunity, because by being a partner, it gives us a lot more credibility for the project. What's nice about this grant opportunity is that we can start training our own labor pool here in the Orville area. That might entice and attract industry into our area in the areas of technology.
Okay.
Yeah, also, I know I had a few, at least another
Yeah.
minute left, I believe.
Yeah.
Just to share my background, I've been in technology since '85, so another year I'll be doing this for about 40 years. I started out before there was internet, before Microsoft, Cisco, back when there were mainframes. I served in the military 6.5 years doing mainframe technologies. I got injured. I came out as a disabled veteran. This is when the internet was coming out. I was a vice president with JP Morgan Chase. I designed all their global technologies with the 7 banks merging in 2000, putting everything on a common platform, building data centers across the world, e-centers, even a call agent where you call an 800 number, you talk to a call agent, how that routes, and you talk to an agent, and security. And I can say during my watch at the bank, we've never been hacked. The attacks came, but they were never successful.
Good.
Yeah, so it's that my background covers. I've done a lot of consulting. I sent consultants out in the Bay Area for British Telecom as well too. So we have the capability and experience to do that training right here in Orville.
We have a couple questions for clarification. Councilman Weber?
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited about this, and you have my complete support. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for our community to pour the knowledge that you have and your expertise in these areas into our younger generations. And this would also work extremely well, and maybe perhaps we could start having a conversation about the efforts that the OCDC has been doing to build relationship with Butte College as well, to maybe partner in some sort of accreditation through the college perhaps, because I'm looking like we were talking about, a couple weeks ago, to build a relationship with them to see if we could get a South County campus or classrooms with Butte College right here in Orville.
Yes.
So I think this would be a great opportunity, and I'm fully support this, and I would have no problem making a motion for this to be on the agenda. So thank you.
Thank you. We're also working with Chico Start for what they do, the incubator in Chico.
And Councilman Johnstone has another question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I would like to mirror what Councilman Weber said. I'm really excited about this. I would think that since you're focusing on youth as well as IT, that there would be multiple funding opportunities for something like this that can help bridge the gaps in that. And I would also like to see maybe veterans or, something like that too, where they don't necessarily have to go to a work every day. They can work from the comfort of their own home, so I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'm really excited about
So
it.
the grant gives us traction. It's a 4-year grant, but we're also proceeding to make the project sustainable. And there's also other 501c3s that donate. There's private companies that donate as well that will bring in those multiple disciplines that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great for even retirees or something too. So, and I like that you're keeping it local. So, thank you. Good luck, and I'm out for it.
I assume you've got some paperwork to deliver to staff to work on an agenda
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, we'll
So
get that to 'em.
Let you work with Brian Ring, yeah.
Yeah, and I had a question, and we can talk after, but is it looking for a letter of support from the council, or are you looking for the city to apply on?
Yeah, it's an in-kind donation to match 20% of the grant.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk after.
On the agenda.
Vice Mayor Smith has a question too before we go.
It would be remiss if I didn't give my full support,
Yeah.
coming from the Chamber of Commerce, for sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and,
All right.
and Ed, you were there before the internet was invented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember it was dial-up.
Thank you.
Councilman Goodson has,
I just have a quick question. Where does this grant initially?
It's a USDA grant, a rural grant.
Which,
It's for disadvantaged areas, which the city of Paris building is located in a disadvantaged area.
USDA.
are you working with the USD office here at the airport?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, that's the
Yeah,
office we have
and
here.
one of the big challenges that we have today is, so say that we have the people here that has this knowledge. And part of the problem is, well, how do they interface, with the cloud?
Right.
So right now, we don't have any high-speed internet access for people to even go to where it's publicly accessible. So by having the physical platform and the work share, anybody, regardless of background, already has that capability. So we give them that little bit of training, then they have full access to the, to everything that's out there.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the comments. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any more cards?
Yes, we do, sir.
Okay.
Up next, we'll have Bill Spear, followed by the cameraman.
Okay. Mr. Spear.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. The verse of the day in the Bible app is, Lord, you are my God. I will exalt you and praise your name. For in perfect faithfulness, you have done wonderful things planned long ago. Pretty awesome verse. Pretty awesome day today. The Lord has made. Reason to rejoice and be glad. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and another scripture that I really like talks about meditating on the things that are good and praiseworthy, the things that are of good report, the things that are pure. And so I'm going to pray the blessings of God that He has prepared for our city. Pray over you guys. And look at all of the blessings and the positive things that we have, and they're tremendous. Even if it wasn't such a beautiful day and it was raining, He's still a good God. So, Father God, we thank you for our city council and for their faithfulness. Thank you for our mayor and our vice mayor and all of the council members who take time away from their families to come be the elders at the city gate. I pray that you continue to give them wisdom, continue to supernatural favor, continue to use them to build bridges, to solve problems, to provide for the citizens of not only our city, but we are the county seat, and Lord, that we would lift up, and as we've been talking about changing the branding of our city, you are changing the branding. You are changing Orrville from the inside out. You are lifting us up, a city on a hill. You are using us to solve the problems. And we pray that you would continue, Lord, to pour out your provision, continue to pour out your spirit upon us, continue to bless and anoint the rescue mission. We thank you for them and the Hope Center and for those that are helping the least of these. For you said you were hungry and we fed you. You were thirsty and we gave you drink. You were a stranger. We invited you in. You were in prison and we visited you. You were sick and we prayed for you. And we pray, Lord, as we continue, Lord, to intercede for the least of these, that you would pour out the provision, that you would lift up and strengthen and encourage and heal, that you would bless and anoint. We thank you, we praise you, we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Up next, we have the cameraman.
There we go. Good evening, Orrville City Council. I just have brief public comment tonight, although I will be speaking again later on another agenda item. Good turnout for our first Civics 101 class, assembly, whatever you want to call it. I just call it Civ 101 for short. Nice turnout. Although when I did sign up, and I filled out my form a month in advance. I think it was the second day after I saw it on Action News, which surprisingly I heard everybody, sent pretty much to every news outlet, paper, online, and barely, scratched about 30 people showed up out of, the 50 some. That's still pretty good, but I'm still surprised some people were not informed. But the Thursday before the meeting, the Wednesday, I did call, and Jessica, she answered the phone and told me the city did not receive my application. Now, I printed it off online, filled it out, mailed it in, but I guess nobody received it. I don't know what happened there. I'm kind of a little annoyed that I wasted a stamp on that when she just emailed me the form and I refilled it out and got it in time, but just thought I'd make note of that. But still, I look forward to attending more of these sessions, and I hope everybody else comes, tells your family, friends, come on down and learn about government. And just with the minute I have left, I'd like to briefly mention about a town I learned about this week called Dalton. It's a little village in Illinois. Some of you may have heard about it in the news. And it's mainly because there's this mayor there that is being accused of being allegedly the most corrupt mayor in America of a small town. This is a town about 20,000 people, kind of like Orville, small, not, outside of major cities, this city right outside of Chicago. And this woman has just destroyed the city's budget with mismanagement of spending. I mean, she has an entire entourage of security that follows her around in black Suburbans that this guy, he did the budget for it, and she paid well over $50,000 over, can you imagine going to a car dealership and then paying $50,000 more than the sticker price? Crazy. But I just thought everybody should know. Imagine our mayor, Mr. Pittman, driving around in a big entourage of black SUVs and having 5 bodyguards. I mean, we've got our problems, but I mean, at least our mayor isn't, using all our money for a personal bodyguard service. It could be a lot worse. And I just think that would be funny to see our mayor rolling around like he's, it's Secret Service, and he's got Air Force One on his back, So I think a little humor to lighten the mood, and thank you for the time.
All right.
Somebody's going to catch the tail end.
Would you like an entourage?
No, thanks.
This is not going to go well.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for
That's all we
submitted.
have? All right. Next item.
Did you want to clarify?
Clarify?
You do not.
Oh, no,
ride around
I do not
in-
ride around. I'm lucky to ride around in anything, let alone anything. Most of the time I walk, so, it's cool. Next item is reports and discussions, council announcements and then reports. Any council announcements here? Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, so Pat Pyatt asked me to, just to bring up the Civics 101 class. It was well-attended. I thought it was a fantastic opening. There are some people in the audience here tonight that were there as well. And so we certainly appreciate, I think the feedback I got was, and it was a comment made during the meeting, that this is pretty amazing that Orville is willing to be so transparent. And I think that much to Pat's credit, that, he certainly wants to pull back the veil. Sometimes when things seem to happen in secret in the back room, not knowing exactly what's going on back there. But really, these are all public servants. The staff, the city, they're here to serve you and to help our city run well. But he's not able to be here tonight, but he did want everyone to know, I think it was already mentioned, that that's still open. There's still a room for those that would like to get on board with the next class. And so that'll be about 3 weeks from now.
Very good. I'll take a little moment and thank the city staff in particular for the Arbor Day celebration that happened on last Saturday. I remember when Arbor Day was a few trees at a school site, 6 or 7 trees. This year is, I think there was about 50 or 60 booths, and both inside the convention center and outside, and a very large attendance. The merging with the Botanical Garden and the other groups for the Arbor Day celebration was a huge effort, and please extend thanks to the staff and everyone for putting that together. We are a tree city, and we do have an inventory of over 12,000 trees in this community. So I've been challenged by that number. Somebody wanted to get out and count them, but Vice Mayor Smith, you were there with the chamber. How did your impression of that day go?
Yeah, no, I thought it was, a great event, and certainly Susan Sims and all the people at the Orville Botanical Garden and Educational Center, big thank you, because they've really taken the lead on this to make it happen. That was a great event. One of the things that I did, went around to many of our public schools and did a presentation encouraging, the young people to come out and have that engagement. I think that, we need to create an environment where we're having a sense of ownership and public and civic pride. And so I think that the Arbor Days and honoring that and recognizing the fact that we are a Tree City USA for 44 standing years. And that's something to be proud of and to honor. And so just, again, building that in our kiddos and having that sense of civic pride and that Orville is important. And one of the things that I pointed out, that the world's pencil stock You know where that comes from. So if you're a kid and you're in Australia or you're in Europe, it doesn't matter where you are, anywhere in the world, you're probably holding a little bit of Orville in your hand. Pretty cool. And, you know, every kid loves to take tests, right? And so they're really thinking about Orville about that moment. Anyway, so there's lots of cool factoids about Orville that make us unique and special. And I think it's important for our kids to grasp hold of that. And so this was an opportunity to do it. And also, we do have something else coming up, Wildflower. As you know, Table Mountain, just to segue into that.
Yeah.
April 6th, Feather River Parks District is hosting the Wildflower Festival at Riverbend Park. And so that's another great festival just to honor the beautiful bloom that's happening now up at Table Mountain. And so if you want to get out and have that opportunity, remember you need a lands pass or a fishing or hunting license to walk Table Mountain now because it is managed by Fish and Wildlife. You don't want to get busted.
And you can get that online.
You can get it online.
Yes. All right. Good point. Any other council members? Now staff, administration reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't usually have reports, but the U.S. Supreme Court recently issued a ruling. I am preparing a memo, or I'm causing a memo to be prepared that will be emailed to all of you. This is regarding posting on Facebook. A city manager in another location had a personal page, was posting predominantly personal items on the Facebook page, but from time to time would post work-related items. And of course, those work-related items were about the public agency that the city manager worked for. Someone from the community would post derogatory comments, and this city manager deleted the comments. Ultimately, it led to a lawsuit. Well, ultimately, it blocked that individual from his page altogether. Led to a lawsuit. I'll spare you the gory details. Went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court held that a personal page does not convert to a public page merely because someone posts about their job or about their position. So you can, again, block derogatory comments. Unless you have the authority to speak on behalf of the agency. And that is a fairly high burden. The one thing I thought, there are three prongs that they looked at, and the third prong actually, which I think is important for all of you and staff members to know, is there is a heavy presumption that the page is a private page if you have under the title, this is the private page of, and you put your name.
Gotcha.
Now, you can, again, overcome that presumption, particularly, for example, and I'll use an example that is not in existence, but just as a hypothetical, if the council gave the authority to the mayor to speak on a particular item, and on his page he spoke on that item, that would, I think, overcome the presumption because you were given the authority to be the spokesperson. And you are using that. But having said that, it really does sort of, speak to the delineation of personal pages and political pages. And if you want to keep your personal page personal, you can do that with a presumption that, you've
a good idea.
you put that down, that statement that it is a personal page. There will be a memo coming about that shortly, so but I wanted you to hear about it. It's all over the internet, but you'll get a memo about it. It came out last Friday. The case, and again, I know you're all really interested, Lindke versus Freed.
All right.
But you'll get a memo about it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that info. That helps us all, for sure. Mr. Ring, anything to discuss?
Yeah, just a few updates for the council. One is we had an executive committee meeting yesterday. We talked about two topics I wanted to share. One was speeding within the community, and had a very good brainstorming session with our public works team as well as law enforcement. And we're going to be doing a number of things from speed bumps to we're looking into some new speed signs, speed limit signs that not only tell drivers how fast they're driving through that particular zone, but also tracks that data. So then we have a really solid data to know when people are in fact speeding in that zone, and then we could have a better law enforcement component to that. So we're going to be doing that. So that was a good meeting, and we also met to talk with the executive committee about the Feather River Rec and Park District impact fee discussion. So I think we received some direction to answer a few more questions on that, and I think we're going to have one more executive committee meeting beforehand, and that item is on the agenda tonight. and we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But we're still working on that one. And then I also wanted to share, I'm working with Cal Water, again, to bring a public hearing before this council to revisit fluoride in the water. And the idea right now is to target May 21st for that. I'll put it out there now. They do want to have some time to get some information out to their customers, so that's the target date for that topic.
Okay, good.
That's all I have.
Thanks, sir.
You bet.
I should mention, yeah. Oh. Go ahead, Heather, you can speak. Yeah, your department. Oh. Yeah, come on up.
Step up to the
Your
mic.
Department of Museum, we'll let you talk.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pittman and members of the City Council. Thank you for your time. I wanted to briefly share with you a little bit about the designation of the CF Lot Home to become a historic site by the Society of Colonial Dames and invite you to the plaque presentation that will take place this Friday, May 22nd at 11 o'clock at the Lot Home. I'll tell you a little bit about the Colonial Dames. The Lot Home was nominated for this site designation by Vicki Paxton of Orville, and she is a member of the Priscilla Alden chapter of the Society of Colonial Dames, which is based in Sacramento. The National Society of Colonial Dames was founded in 1915 as a nonprofit organization. Its members are women who are lineal descendants of ancestors who lived and served in one of the original colonies prior to 1701. The society is based in Washington, D.C., and is currently comprised of 48 state societies, which are further divided into chapters. One of the goals of the organization is to identify and mark historical sites. While the organization does focus on colonial sites, if a site is deemed to have significance and it is important to the community, it's taken into consideration for designation. There are currently 850 historical sites designated throughout the United States and about 25 in California. This is a great honor and further underscores how the Lot Home and family have contributed to the community. The CF Lot Home and Sank Park help preserve the rich history of an important family who helped to shape the city of Orville. And today the site continues to bring the history to life and serves as a place of gathering for the community. On Friday, members of the Colonial Dames Society will be present on Friday, and I was just told today that the state president of the Colonial Dames is going to fly up from San Diego to attend, and there'll be 14 Colonial Dames that are coming up from Sacramento for this. So the plaque ceremony will be fairly brief. It'll be held on the porch of the CF Lot Home, and it will include just brief remarks and a photo opportunity with the handing of the plaque. And so we hope that you, if you're available, you'll come and attend. And again, it's at 11 o'clock this Friday at the Lot Home. So
Thank you, Heather.
thank you.
I've asked the vice mayor to attend that, if you will. I will be out of town that day, and I certainly would encourage all the council members to be there, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to do a little bit of a round robin update for Public Works, if you
Please.
guys may indulge me. I'd like to start with the airport. We've got a couple of things going on out there that I'm excited about. February 25th, our fuel card reader install will be happening. So we're going to actually have a fuel card reader for our airport fuel
What year?
cells.
What date?
February 25th. So it's
February 25th? February.
March 25th.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
I don't know why I'm saying February. Sorry
That's
about
all right.
that. I wrote February, so I said
I'm a month
February.
behind, too, so let's go ahead.
Monthly fuel cells in January, we sold 550 gallons of avgas, that's for piston-driven aircraft, 700 gallons of Jet A, which would be the underwing from the fuel truck. February, our fuel cells went up a little higher because the weather was better, 615 gallons of avgas, piston-driven propeller airplane cells, and 1,170 gallons of Jet A, and 719 of that was from the fuel truck. So
Cool.
fuel cells are going up a little bit. We had 1,600 takeoff and landings out at the airport last month. That number isn't exactly right because if the aircraft doesn't have a transponder or it squawks, it lets the other airplanes know you're out there, you don't see it out there. So that number could actually be a little bit higher. We've also did some weed spraying around hangars A, B, and C in the taxi lanes. Crack sealing for runway 20 and 2 will be going on this summer, so there's going to be a real improvement on the surface out there as well. That will do it for the airport for now. Real quick on Public Works, we're excited that we made a job offer and they've already started. Mr. Peng Tao, he was once worked for the city of Oroville. He went to a different job a couple years ago, and we got him back in the Parks Department. He's a great asset and a resource, and we're real happy that he came back to us. So that's really exciting. To speak on the Arbor Day, with our streets, Complete Streets Survey, we got 25 folks to participate and fill out our survey. So, which will lead me into my next piece here. We're going to have a workshop, folks, here this Thursday at 5:30. I encourage the public to come out and to see what we're doing. Check out our conceptual drawings of the Table Mountain, Washington Avenue Boulevard. Tell us what you like, hate, and like to see. So come one, come all. It's a great time to participate. And our sewer, I have an update for the sewer department as well. Just wanted to let you folks know, April 2nd on the council agenda, we're closing in on a sewer rate study. It'll be ready for us, and we're going to present it at the April 2nd meeting. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up that this is coming. The last sewer rate study we had, it looks like it was from 2013 to 2016, so it's well overdue. Yeah. And there'll be a lot of great information, and we'll have a nice presentation for you folks. Okay? And one more item, and I promise I'll be quiet. Heather was telling us about the Sisters this Friday, but also as a shout out, April 6th is going to be the antique appraisal at the Bolt Museum. That's a really great opportunity to bring in some of your treasures and to get them appraised, and love to see everybody out there. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
And I'll be quiet now.
Yeah. Vice Mayor Smith, you have a question?
Since you brought up the fuel prices, I noticed a little bugaboo on social media about our prices being kind of out of sync. So I was looking at the AirNav, which reports the different municipalities and private airports, the fuel prices. It doesn't look like that per se on here, except that what generated my question and why I'm stopping now and asking is the reporting date. Do we have like a policy or consistent reporting date to get that out to AirNav so that's regularly updated?
Yes, we do. Cody updates that on a regular basis.
Okay.
Like most fuel, gasoline's a very competitive thing. It's up and down all the time. So he has a window. I don't know the exact matrix that he uses, but he does make corrections on a regular basis, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, Amy.
Yes, I just wanted to update you. I already updated you about the CDBG application that was submitted, but today our Affordable Housing and Sustainable Community Grant application was submitted today. Just a reminder, that is for the Nelson Point project on Nelson Avenue and the complete, like the closures of the sidewalks and bike lanes. And then after tonight, if it's approved, the PLHA application will be submitted this week, and that would be for funding for more owner-occupied rehabilitation programs. And then on January 2nd, I'll be bringing a staff report for an application for the home program for first-time homebuyer funds. What?
Okay.
That's it. What?
Thank you. Busy. How's finance over there? Ruth? Nothing? Okay. Over here?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I would be amiss if I didn't mention that we completed crack sealing on 7th Avenue, and we're out on East Oro Dam Road. We're going to finish crack sealing out there tomorrow, too. I wanted to make sure our folks got the acknowledgement on that.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Jess.
All right. We good?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Just like to let you all know that the Oroville Police Department recently had 2 officers complete their field training program. So a quick shout out to Officer Cody Cordonez and Officer Brandy Van Poel. They're on the street now as solo officers serving the community. So congratulations to them. And also we'd like to recognize our 2023 Officer of the Year, who was Officer Chige Tao, our 2023 Dispatcher of the Year, who was Deanna Croswell, and our 2023 Municipal Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, who is Mauricio Moreno. They really serve the community well, and so if anybody sees them out and about, please say hello.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I just have one quick update.
Yeah,
if I
please,
may.
go ahead.
Kayla, could you put the picture up, please? This is a pretty exciting update, dating back probably close to 2.5 years. we ordered a Type 6 wildland engine.
Yeah.
And Amy helped us out with that. But today was the final inspection for it.
Oh.
And I have some pictures up of it.
Excellent.
It's about 2 weeks out. We could have took delivery today. There are some things on there that we needed to adjust and correct. One of them was a work order, and another one was just, simple couple misunderstandings, pretty industry standard with ordering something like this. This is a new build, but this is the 2024 F550 with a chassis build-up, Type 6 engine. Amy helped fund this. We're really excited about it. It's about 2 years. It's taken 2 years not to build it, but, unfortunate times where supplies were kind of hard to get really set us back. The Ford is what really held us up from getting, but it looks really, really nice. I'm really impressed with it. M-Tech is building it over in Chico, so we've got to work really closely with them. They've been a great company to work with. But this is a really nice piece of equipment, and we're honored to put it in our fleet here pretty soon. I'm hoping in the next couple weeks. So I just wanted to update you on that. It's kind of been a long time planning. I haven't said much in between, but this is more of one of those updates that's a little bit more exciting. So
Yeah.
just wanted
Thank
to
you,
show
sir.
you. And that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. All right. Looks like we're done with that. We're going to move toward the consent calendar. Any of the council members have an item on consent calendar they'd like to pull, or I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Motion seconded to approve the consent calendar. I'll call the roll.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I'll make a special note here on item number 9 that was just approved, the acceptance of the grant from Cal Water. We thank you. I see the manager in the background there. We appreciate Cal Water's efforts toward helping to fund critical items for our fire department. So thank you, Lonnie, for being here. Yeah,
It's good to see you, Lonnie.
good to see you. All right. Next item is regular business. Item number 14. The proposed striping and safety improvements for Montgomery Street.
Good
Fred.
evening again, ladies and gentlemen. So North Star Engineer is currently developing a downtown slurry project for us, and we've been going back and forth with some of the Planning Commission as well with some suggested improvements on Montgomery Street. And you can see on the attached, the exhibit, that we're looking at doing a couple of different pieces. If you could see on your monitor, I'd like to describe those. The city is proposing an additional 3-foot wide buffer zone striping on each side of separate lanes of traffic and the parking lane from Frederick River up to Lincoln Street. This should create a couple of things. Creates an illusion that the traffic lanes are actually narrower, keeps vehicles closer to the center line of the road, and allow room for pedestrians to access their vehicles that are parked on the side of the road. I think we've all parked on Montgomery, and you realize how narrow that road is when you're opening a door and a truck or a car is going by. This is also, should act as a traffic calming piece. This is just to install cross-hatching shown in the exhibit in the bottom right, which is the cross-hatching near the crosswalk. Again, it's more of a visibility piece and a traffic calming to make the lanes look shorter or narrower. We're proposing a ceramic traffic dot in favor of traditional striping with high wet, nighttime visibility, thermoplastic striping, which is a lot more reflective. It's got ground glass in the paint, and it's so much easier to see versus just a traditional thermoplastic. Redesigning some of the intersections to include bulb outs, which you see photographed here, which would address a couple of things, which would actually, again, give the appearance the lanes are narrower, slows traffic down, and gives us the opportunity to make a nice ADA compliant accessible corners. We're also looking at potentially painting up to 20 feet red curb on each of these corners to allow better visibility for pedestrians and bicyclists leaving the corners on the street. Let's see. Again, this creates a higher visibility for vehicles, for pedestrians, and vehicles driving by. They can actually see people walking up on the curbs. And many of those curbs are not ADA compliant now. as a temporary solution until the bulbs can be installed on one of the intersection corners. Staff is proposing painting each corner approximately, like I just mentioned, about 22 feet in each direction red for no parking. And staff is recommending some type of direction from council on this, and there's no fiscal impact at this time for it.
Vice Mayor Smith is the question.
Yeah, just a kind of a statement. Orville is known for its parades. Exchange Club handles quite a few of those for us. And of course, they come up Montgomery Street. So when I was looking at this, the chamber, you know, we do the light parade through downtown. I'd love to move the route, but the bulb out prohibits me from making that left on Myers because of the long floats. So just as you're looking at this and in consideration of our history and our heritage and the value that parades bring to Orville, that 5th Street, because they always line up on 5th and back, right? If we do a bulb out there, because this is up by the school church, St. Thomas, right? But if we continue this down, I'm just thinking, just as you're looking at that, be mindful. You know, I'm not, you know, again, what the engineering and all it looks like, but I know it is a problem for the parades through the, you know, the old town, downtown.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Duly
yep.
noted. I'll make sure we keep an eye on that very closely.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilman Weber? Yes.
Yeah, did you say that you're considering putting a no red curb 20 feet back from the bulb outs?
From the bulb outs,
Right.
the 20 feet would be centered off of that. So it gives, it's roughly a car length on the corners. Because right now, there's a lot of parking on the corners, and it's very difficult to see children,
Blind.
small people, even adults, even large people like me. If you're walking behind a truck and you come off that corner and you're driving by, it's difficult. So we're just trying to make the visibility a lot bigger on the corners.
Well, I live right there near that intersection. I walk across it almost every night to go to the park to play football with my son. So I'm very aware of that intersection. So I think the visibility isn't nearly as bad as maybe perhaps people think, because I'm there all the time. But I'm just concerned for this house right here, okay, if we're looking at the top of our, I'll just get up and show you this house right here.
Yes.
I don't know if there's 20 feet from the bulb out to that driveway.
There should be. They've done measurements on it, and again, the 20 feet would be incorporated, I believe, center line of the bulb out. So, yeah, it should accommodate at least one length of the
Yeah,
car.
I'm not opposed to this. I would just like that to be taken into consideration.
Sure.
Like, for instance, if it's that close to their driveway, because I'm thinking, you know, I don't know how far that bulb out will go, but I'm thinking from 20 feet from the end of the bulb out to their driveway, I'm thinking it's probably actually in the middle of their driveway. And also, Vice Mayor Smith just raised that about the possibility of floats. So how much space will be in between do you know off the top of your head how much space would be in between the bulb outs at the widest point?
At the widest point, each travel lane will still be 11 feet wide, which they currently are.
So for instance, on First
So
here.
that'd be
like-
22 feet.
Okay. So, and then you're proposing doing these all the way down?
Yes, if possible, yes.
Okay.
And Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, the temporary, obviously the striping on the bottom right-hand corner, that's the issues that we've addressed or discussed today. Obviously, as we do the sealant project on Montgomery, that's an option when we restripe, and then the bulb outs would be more of a longer-term potential option as more funding's available. But in the meantime, they would do some red striping
That
there.
red right there?
Yeah, do some red striping that would, without the bulb outs, at least still provide a better, safe visibility on those corners.
Yeah, because ideally, we're trying to slow down people. It's the street. I drive it every morning. I drive it several times a day myself, and it's easy to find yourself creeping over 25 miles an hour down that street because it feels wide, but it's, you know, there's a lot of people out there, so thank you, Brian, for that.
Councilman
with the
Riggs.
striping, yes.
My question is, with the new striping, that would be able to be accommodated for touch-ups with our little funny striping trailer thing?
Well, with the thermoplastic, we shouldn't have to do touch-ups because it doesn't fade as fast as paint.
Okay.
With our striping machine, it's paint, so it fades off after a year or two.
Okay. And
Thermoplastic
then
lasts long.
my second question was, would you consider adding the green line touch-up in your restriping activities?
Yes, the green line would be part of the restriping.
That's all.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, we do have public comment cards on this item.
Certainly. Unless there's any more questions from council. Let's open up public comment then.
Okay, first we'll begin with the cameraman and follow that with Warren Jensen.
Good evening again, Oroville City Council. I'd like to talk about the improvement project for Montgomery Street. I think what's desperately needed, we need some more markings updated on Montgomery Street. It's one of our more, I wouldn't say, well, there's a lot more busier streets in our town, but this is one of the main streets that a lot of people travel through daily. The biggest need I definitely see is for the crosswalks to be more indicated. Definitely, we got to bring it up to code with ADA laws. I mean, I've walked, Montgomery Street is one of the major streets I've personally walked in this town, and they definitely need ADA compliance. Mainly, I'd like to see some signs. I don't know what the budget is for signs, but mainly signs indicating, hey, there's a crosswalk here. I mean, there's just a little dip at the curb, but there's no real like white or yellow lines appropriately for, where the school, depending if you're in a school zone or not. And just a sign in general pointing, hey, there's a crosswalk coming up ahead. Maybe something to look into. Now, this could be a counter investment because some people seem to treat this as a high score sign, but maybe when we get towards like the Catholic school, St. Thomas's, we have one of those radar signs that say, hey, 25-mile-an-hour school zone, this is your speed, and, flash, make it people slow down. But again, like I said, some people treat that as a high score sign, even though it's supposed to slow people down. But definitely we need to get markings because it's just plain as day. I mean, even right out here, you walk out City Hall, we have a nice crosswalk, with the stone and everything, but there's no white or yellow markings for nighttime. I mean, it's just mainly we need crosswalks to be distinguished more on Montgomery Street, and I think that'll help with people realizing, hey, this is not a 35-mile-an-hour zone like I see people treat it as. It's more of a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Maybe I don't think the police are going to give you too much, hassle if you're, right there at 29, 30, but if you're going 35 miles an hour, close to 40 down Montgomery Street, you need to slow down. And I think this project will definitely help people visualize that this is not just some straight, drag strip all the way to Feather River Boulevard and the highway. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Do we have any other cards?
Yes, we do. Up next, we have Warren Jensen, followed by Brian William.
All right. Welcome, Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Warren Jensen, I'm on the Planning Commission. I'm one of the commissioners that brought the idea to engineering, along with Commissioner Sheard. Kind of part of a larger conversation that we're having or starting to have, having to do with safe transportation and travel, particularly in and around the downtown area. Our idea is that we want to, in particular, have, safe bicycle transportation, but we realize that Montgomery Street being the connection really from the freeway to downtown, that we really want to reserve that as the vehicle corridor, encourage vehicles to use that, and try and make improvements on the other streets that make it more a residential type of a street, so we don't have drag races going down Bird Street, down Robinson, or any of the other parallel streets to Montgomery. Definitely want to acknowledge engineering. They moved on this fairly quickly. We just met with them back in January on this, so so thank you very much and good job. I did want to share with you an image that I pulled from. This came from Sheridan, Wyoming. Small community. And it has, I think, perhaps a better representation of what of the idea that we have with the striping. If I do that. So this is just their main drag, and it's, of course, Montgomery would not have a center line.
Thank you.
But where you'd have the 11-foot traffic way, then the protective striping, and then the parking. To try and do, as Fred says, to calm traffic, and to make it safer for people getting in and out of their vehicles. And then another thing about having the I guess bulbing, quote unquote, because we're planning on painting the bulbing. It's as much for pedestrians as it is for vehicles coming on side streets to Montgomery, because it's very difficult to see around some of the parked cars to see if there's traffic coming in either direction. So we'll make sure that was added. And I don't think I have anything else. So thank you very much.
Appreciate the information.
And then thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, Fred, so on those bulbs, so they're not a physical extension, it's just purely paint?
At this point, they would be
Okay,
paid.
and at that point, it wouldn't
That would
affect
be a
the-
program
Yeah.
later, because
Okay.
it'd be very costly, and that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
need to be
All right.
programmed in.
Yeah, I was thinking it was more of a physical bulb out like we have downtown.
That would be future.
Okay, thank you.
And we have another one, right?
Yes, we do have one remaining from Brian Williams.
Oh, welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Fred, for helping put this together. When looking at your picture, you have a 3-foot buffer zone. Is that a bike lane?
That's more for when people are parking on the street and they can open their door without their,
But
being
also,
struck.
but the line's gonna be painted 3 feet over from the
Potentially
car,
people could use
so
it as a
there
bike
could
lane,
somewhat be a safer spot for bicyclists to ride, also kind of in that zone where people could get in and out of their cars.
Yes.
So I think that's a very, very good option. My understanding is as of January 1, California has actually required 20 feet of red paint to the car side, traffic side of an intersection. So at least half of these are mandated. So if we want to have crosswalks in the streets, if there's cars coming at you, you can't have a car within 20 feet. So this bulb out looks like that 20 feet will be consumed within that bulb out. So it's not going to be losing more parking spaces. It's just going to be defining what is safe and what should not be. And like Fred said, putting the pedestrians closer to traffic so they could see where these cars are and the cars can see them. And I like the idea of possibly a bike lane if there is enough room to, maybe it's like a mixed use zone. And Safford Street, we'd love it. Thank you guys for this. I have one more to talk about later, but thank you very much.
All right. Any more cards?
That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Council, entertain a motion or action?
It's just provide directions.
Ultimately, we wanted to get, obviously, if this was, if the council desired to keep it as is, we wanted to at least throw this in front of the council. If the council's okay with us proceeding, we'll proceed as planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. I think
I'm
you
in
have-
agreement.
It looks like we have consensus to move forward and bring us more. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Good idea. Great response to the topic. Next item is 15.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I know we had some public hearings timed as well.
Oh.
We should probably jump.
All right, let's go to the public hearing. I didn't see a time on it, so let's, it is now,
5 o'clock.
it's now 6 o'clock. And, oh, yeah, we did. It's item number 17, second reading, we'll call the public hearing to order at 6 o'clock, a little behind here. Second reading of the zoning code amendment, ZC 23-03, amending section 1712-060, the tree preservation section 1712-065, oak tree loss mitigation, and section 17.48.070, tree removal permits of the Orville Municipal Code, OMC.
Mr. Mayor, we have Connor online right now. He'll be presenting this item tonight.
Okay. Connor, can you hear us?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
I'll keep it pretty brief since we talked about it in depth at our last meeting in January. But essentially, we introduced for a first reading and got some direction after discussion amongst staff and the council members for some minor modifications to the tree removal permit requirements. So currently what we're proposing is to move the permit and mitigation exceptions from section 17.12.065, which was at that time specific to oak tree loss mitigation, and moving that to section 17.48.070 for tree removal permits. What that would do would expand the permit exceptions and mitigation exceptions to all trees, not just oak trees. In addition, we have expanded the applicability of the tree removal permits to include what is not considered a protected tree, and have provided a list of tree species that are considered invasive, highly flammable, or don't contain value or necessarily trees that we want to see within the city. So that does include the eucalyptus trees that were mentioned, palm trees, and some other more invasive species that we tend to see like along the river or areas of the city that we don't want to see them. So just keep it short and brief and leave it up for discussion to see if we like these changes or if there's other changes that need to be made.
Thank you, Connor. Any council questions of Connor? Oh, Vice Mayor Smith, please.
Yeah, so we made a change with now identifying certain, well, I'm on page 194 in the packet. And so I have some concerns. You know, the direction was to simplify, and there's some things that are. However, the moment we now make it all trees have some element of protection, and so now, except for, and then we have a list of trees that aren't protected, to me, it's actually more complicated. It's because now I'm, having to get out my Western guidebook and trying to figure out what kind of tree I have. Originally, it was if it's, and most people know what an oak tree is. If you've lived in California, you probably know what an oak tree is. That's pretty simple. And so when it gets into a protected tree is defined as, and then it's any tree on public property, or then it has any tree on private property that has a trunk diameter of at least 24 inches. Now I think that we've shrunk that. I think that it should be at least 38, and then I don't even like any tree. I think, again, we should go back to, where it's an oak tree. And not, so in other words, keeping it simple. For an example, I pulled San Jose's ordinance here, and so right in the front page, so people are, wanting to remove a tree in their, and now, and just to clarify, we're talking about residential property, predominantly residential. Have my home, I have a tree, it's a problem, I want to remove it. And now it just feels like we're making it more complicated to me. So when I look at San Jose, which is a pretty big city, and they're pretty regulatory, I mean, just by nature of being in the Bay Area. And so there it's 38 inches in circumference. So if my tree is 38 inches or bigger, then I have to get a permit. But anything underneath that, I don't. And that's basically it. So it's pretty simple. So there's that part of the conversation that I want to have. And then over on page 195, we identify different types of zone, RL, R2, residential large lot, residential 1, residential 2. And then we have up there, it says the developed lot is not greater than 20,000 square feet. I think that's far too restrictive because RL, they're all bigger than 20,000. So in other words, if I'm on an RL, which is a lot of my district, because it's an older community, older town, those residential large lots, I mean, essentially every one of us living over there, we're going to have to get a permit to do what most other people can do anywhere in the city. So I just take issue with the 20,000 square foot, which is less than a half an acre, because it's about 42,000 square feet and some change is an acre of land. So what I'm proposing is that we, in light of the fact that most of these residential large lots are right around the 40,000 plus square foot on average developed residential lots, so I'm proposing that we move that number to 43,000 to take into consideration most of your residential lots in Oroville that are RL. And the other point I want to bring up to Scott in his district, this number 1, so 8B1, if the developed lot is located within the foothill overlay, which you're in, that's most of your district, District D, that then any tree that's inside of a setback will require a permit as well. So I don't know if within your district if that's an issue, But so essentially, and I think Wes could probably describe, or you can, Connor, what the setback, what that means. So there's an extra layer of requirements of complexity, if you will, to the ordinance as well. In that, now I don't live in that district, but just the same, I think it's important to point that out. There is an extra layer of complexity to that district. So those are just some of my thoughts initially, right out the gate.
So I'll see if I could answer your questions that you've posed. So essentially, right now, our goal is we are trying to make it simpler. We have any tree on the books with this ordinance, any tree in the city, regardless of whether it's an invasive, whether it's eucalyptus, whether it's a tree that we don't like. If you have a tree on your property right now and you want to remove it, you must come to the city and get a permit to remove that tree. What we're doing right now is stating you can have these exceptions of if you know what this tree is, you don't need to come and get a permit for that. And second part of it, go through the exceptions to permits and mitigation. So if your tree is damaged or dead, don't get a permit for it. If your tree is necessary to maintain your property insurance, you don't need to get a permit for that. If you're trimming your tree, you don't need to get a permit for that. And if you're on a developed property, you don't need to get a permit for that. Those criteria that were set for the maximum size are corresponding to what is generally set in code, the minimum size, I apologize, for an RR20, RR10, RL, R1, and R2. We do understand that there are properties that are larger. It's really targeting towards the subdivision of those properties that it has to be a minimum of 20,000 square feet. The reasoning why those size criteria was set was it aligns with what a lot of other jurisdictions do who set that similar criteria. So in the case of Fremont, they state an R1 property not exceeding 10,000 square feet. The reason why it's set at 20,000 is the larger you get, the bigger chance that that property can become a habitat for a protected species. So when you're evaluating a project against CEQA, if your property gets large enough, you are removing less and less exceptions. You are less likely to have an infill exception if you want to do work on your property. If you want to do an addition to your house and you're in a protected area and you want to remove, let's say, in the case of an oak tree, it may not necessarily be the case of that singular oak tree that is an issue with CEQA. It is the habitat that it may house for a Swainson's hawk or for a burrowing owl underground. So the larger your property is, the more likely it's going to be for a habitat. And by setting this exception at 20,000 square feet, we are allowing most property owners to be able to remove trees without the need for a permit. Anytime we get a little bit larger, it becomes an issue with reviewing things against CEQA, and we know how that is when it gets difficult. So that it's supposed to be a multi-tiered approach. We're taking a code section that is very simple in that it is overly broad. When this code was adopted, it said any tree requires a removal permit. All oak trees require a removal permit. Everything requires a removal permit. We are trying to whittle that down to a point that is reasonable to where if you are a property owner, you can exercise your property rights to remove that tree. In the case of the foothill overlay, the intent of the foothill overlay within our general plan and our zoning code is it evokes the sense of a rural foothill nature. You have oak trees, you have gray pine. If we were to remove and allow property owners to remove all of those trees on their property, we then lose the intent and purpose of that foothill overlay, which was created by our general plan and our zoning code. So we have allowed those properties in the foothill overlay who are wanting to remove a tree, if they comply with the lot size requirements, they're zoned properly, they can remove those trees provided they're outside of a setback area that abuts a street. So in this case, it would primarily be the front of their house. That typically is about 20 feet in the front from the public right-of-way to the 20 feet back from the public right-of-way or their property line. And what that does is it helps evoke the sense of we are still accomplishing the goals, the intents and purpose of that foothill overlay. It has a facade, quote unquote, of a foothill ecosystem. But in the back of your house, you can have a completely barren desert. We don't see that. So we're trying to balance the rights of these property owners with, as we just discussed with the Arbor Day Festival, trees are very important to Oroville's heritage. We need to maintain our canopy coverage. We need to maintain our tree coverage. We have analyzed that within our general plan. We've analyzed that within our general plan EIR and associated environmental documents. We are trying to make sure we are doing a simple approach to amending this without having to open up the door to a very large environmental document to go after these things, because multiple cities have tried and they have lost in court trying to push this through as a CEQA exemption.
Okay,
So that's, we're
so
trying to
here-
get this bill as a simple approach.
Well, two big sticking points. First of all, San Jose, 38 inches. That's a pretty big jurisdiction. San Jose is a huge city, and we have 24 inches. So we're more strict than a large Bay Area city. That's ground zero for Silicon Valley. That's a little bit surprising to me. So we're more restrictive than that area. And that's just a fact. I got it right. I got their page right up here, right into my computer as I'm sitting here now. And then the other one that's a no-go is at 20,000, because that's most of my, well, major part of my district. And then also, I was looking at the entire city. That's a lot of city lots all throughout Orville, because we're not Fremont. Fremont's a newer community. This is a very old community, lots of large lots. And so essentially, you know, we're having to get permits. We're having a bigger leap that we're having to do, getting permits, which we're trying to simplify. And I see what you're saying. Well, we have simplified, yeah, for half the town, for half. But all the rest of us are still subject to the same rules and regulations. So that's a no-go. I want it to be 43,000 to be in line with the RL. Otherwise, what's the point? RL, residential large lot. I'm not sure where that cutoff it is, but it's probably right around 20,000 or more square feet. So why even have RL in there then? Doesn't make sense, because they're all bigger than that. So you may as well just pull it out. I don't know what this, if you probably have that more accessible quickly than I can pull it up, but.
So RR20 lot area minimum is 20,000 square feet. RR10 is 10,000. RL is a minimum of 8,000 square feet. There are properties zoned RL that are larger. That was just a matter of when we did our general plan update. That's what the consultant determined was the proper zoning. And I'm pulling up a property right now to
The
see.
APN
So
map, and I just started popping them up, you know, and it's a big chunk of my district.
And that was a
It's
topic of discussion at the Planning Commission meeting, where it previously was set at RR10 and a 10,000 square foot minimum or maximum lot area. And the Planning Commission requested it to be expanded to RR20 to encompass a larger square footage. It won't hit all of them, but it would hit a greater amount of our properties that are a little bit larger in our foothill area. And so when looking at the properties, let me see here.
Highest end allowed by CEQA. I mean, what's the biggest number?
So when it comes to CEQA, there is no set number. When we're evaluating against like oak woodland protection, it goes off of a canopy coverage percentage. And that gets a little bit more difficult in terms of calculating for an owner. And so the city, we've opted to protect them based on size of trees and, you know, replacement ratios of 1-for-1, as opposed to looking at a canopy coverage amount. That's done through the Oak Woodland Conservation Act, and this permit section and tree removal permits and oak tree mitigation is our local implementation of CEQA. So we utilize this as our CEQA thresholds when reviewing projects that are coming in, and that if you are removing an oak tree or a tree, that you are going to see a replacement of that tree at a 1-for-1 ratio if it requires mitigation.
So look, just the view, boots on the ground, just a typical citizen, including myself, we're all typical. You know, we're trying to encourage taking care of our property, you know, being concerned for aesthetics and all those things. And I see this, at least for half of my district, maybe even more. It's more arduous. It's not simpler. And then also property rights. And then we have 12. We just pointed out we have 12,000 city cared for trees. 12,000. You know, it's like when I talked to the federal trappers some years ago. I said, "So how's wildlife?" And they said, "Wildlife is doing well." I had a bunch of goats down in Orangeville that were being attacked by local coyotes, and so they came in. They were trying to trap the coyotes for me. But because of all of these green strips that we're doing, all this activity that we're doing in our communities, you know, wildlife, everything is doing very well. I don't see us having a problem with not enough tree canopy. It's actually kind of the opposite, where things are going wild. not being cared for, not being properly pruned. The city, we have trees blowing up sidewalks all over the place that need to be dealt with. And so I really see it, the more arduous or more difficult we make it, the less likely people are to take care of business. They just don't want the hassle.
So,
And
counsel-
again, back to my point, I want to see 38 inches in 43,000 square feet. If there's no regulations or state reason why you can't do that, I don't see why we can't do it.
Excuse me, what I'm hearing from you is that you'd rather make this minimum size lot, 1 acre, 43,560 square feet instead of 20,000 square feet. I did take the liberty of looking at all our RR20 parcels, or many of them today, which are almost exclusively in the foothill area. And every single one of them is much larger than 20,000 square feet. So this 20,000 upper limit would eliminate virtually all the RR20 lots. So there is some rationale for enlarging that number. Secondly, in most jurisdictions that I'm familiar with, 24 inches is pretty much of a standard definition of a heritage oak tree. San Jose seems to have a larger number, but there is no requirement or state CEQA limitation on that I'm aware of. Connor, you may know something different, but
Just on that comment on it's not oak tree, it's any tree. So any tree 24 inches or greater, because I did a word search, I was trying to see what's the definition, right? And so we're essentially defining any tree that's 24 inches or greater as a heritage tree by default. And I think that, again, now starts becoming too restrictive. I'm good with 38 inches, the number that San Jose uses. And then the oak trees, actually, it's more restrictive. It's 6 inches. I think there's some other language that deal with smaller trees, actually. There's greater protection because they're a native species and they're more valued. And that's a different topic.
if you look on page 191 of your packet, the applicability for a heritage tree is 24 inches, but the way I read that, it only applies to oaks, doesn't apply to other tree species. So, Connor, am I interpreting that correctly?
Correct in part. So we define in that the heritage tree, and this is within our code definitions. So within our municipal code, Title 17, a heritage tree is defined as 24 inches or greater. In this case, we've implemented it specifically within the oak tree mitigation section, and then in the tree removal permit section, it doesn't state it's a heritage tree, but any tree over 24 inches requires
So
a tree removal.
any tree then receives that special designation of heritage tree regardless of species, except for the ones then that you go down to the next section where then you outline all these other trees. We really don't like these at all, so we're going to make sure they don't get and there's a list of different species. But essentially, we're creating a special designation where all trees are constituted as heritage except for that list. That's the way I understood it. But I get what you're alluding to, Wes, but then it moves on. And that's where, again, it comes back to this, we want to simplify it. And then as I'm looking at the 14 pages here, you almost have to be an attorney to decipher this. And that's where I go back to, man, San Jose, they're awesome. A couple paragraphs, super simple. And it seems like we could do the same thing. And I get all the additional language because of development and protecting the native species and all of that. That's different. We're talking about people who live and develop. I got a house there, I got my yard, got my fence, and I need to take care of business. And we want people to do that. And again, so I just think the way the language is and it's back and forth, just trying to decipher it can be a little bit intimidating.
I just pulled up San Jose's code section, chapter 13.28, and I see the website you're talking about, Councilmember Smith, and ideally, if this were to be approved, because we don't currently have an application form, we don't have a website, we don't have a fee, we haven't been utilizing this code section, we would have resources available in layman's terms of how to utilize these regulations. If I looked at San Jose's regulations and I passed this out to an owner, no one would understand property owner maintenance responsibility and duty to public, posting public notices on their property for removal on residential real property, interfering with maintenance. These are issues that are behind the scenes that staff deal with. Staff utilize the code. We prepare the application forms and handouts to prepare and give to applicants so that they can understand in layman's terms what's going to require a tree removal permit.
I have a question from Councilman Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, I am, I'm in alignment and agreement, with Vice Mayor Smith. One thing I know about the constituents that I talk to is that we value our freedom and our individuality. And what we're asking and giving direction to staff to is simplifying this and taking away some of the arduous and inhibitors for somebody to take care of their own property. In Oroville, we do not have a pandemic of people cutting down our big trees. Do not. We love our trees. And so if somebody buys a property, what I would like, if somebody buys a property, then the only limitation is that which is given by the state. So the state has, I'm sure, limitations on trees, and that's the only thing, because some of our residents have been here for a long time, passed down their, some of their properties, and we're talking about some of these bigger properties. Some of those properties have been on people's, in their family for generations. Some of these trees that you're talking about, you have to get a permit for, their family literally planted that tree. So to tell them that, hey, the tree that your grandpa planted no longer necessarily belongs to you, it is now protected by our city, and I'm not for that. So my direction is absolutely in favor of what Councilman Smith wants, is let more freedom for people to do what they want on their properties. Simpler language, more freedom. If we came to a point where we had a huge movement of people just cutting down all the trees, then maybe we could talk about this differently. But at this point, we don't. We love our trees, and I think people are taking care of their properties, and people are watering their trees. We have had situations in the past where I think some of this, where this came to be, and people got really kind of. I love trees. We have a huge tree. I have an oak tree in my backyard that could be 80 foot tall, and we love it. We take care of it. We prune it, and we make sure it's healthy. And I think that is a good representative of most people in our community. So, yeah, I'm in favor of everything that Councilman Smith wants, and I would even want more.
I have a quick question of the city attorney. If we made these suggestions that are in here, would you, and I realize this question is kind of open-ended, but do you think we would withstand a CEQA investigation based upon our rules?
So I'll give you two answers. One, I think it's likely you would withstand, because again, you would have an as applied, and then you'd have the hypothetical, right? The hypothetical is, well, if everybody wanted to cut down the trees that were, and I don't know that that's really realistic. I don't know that any court would really fall for that. Well, if everybody cut trees down that were allowed to be cut down, I mean, you'd be stripping the whole town of trees in that instance, even at the 20,000 square foot mark. So I think it would likely sustain you would likely be able to withstand a CEQA challenge. You're also not likely to catch one. Having said that, I'll just give one other. I'll answer a question you didn't ask,
Okay.
and probably weren't even thinking about. But if an amendment to this ordinance is undertaken, it would need to come back for another reading. It could be on consent at a future agenda, but again, if there is an amendment that's made, then it would need to come back for another reading. Not a big deal. I just wanted to
Okay.
warn you about that.
Any other council questions before I open it up? Do we have any requests to speak on this item? Okay. Public, Councilman Weber, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to lend my support to Vice Mayor Smith's comments as well, and Councilman Thompson's comments as well. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So we have some public comments. Please bring forward.
Yes, we will begin with Bill Spear and follow that with Warren Jensen.
Council, yes, I agree with Councilman Smith and Councilman Thompson. It says the intent of the ordinance is to simplify the city mitigation code. I printed it up, and it's on both sides, and so it definitely has not simplified it. And then it says to balance the ability of the property owners to remove trees on their properties while recognizing the key factors that trees have contributing to the Oroville's beauty and natural environment. It should say to restrict, confuse, and delay the ability of the property owners to remove trees on their own property. It's people's property, they should be able to maintain it as they see fit. Everybody does a pretty good job at doing what's safe so they feel safe. Our Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you buy a piece of property, it's your property, and there's a reason why you don't want a tree that's there. People are planting trees. They said 12,000 trees. We're a city of trees. The birds are planting them. They're planting themselves. They're reproducing. They're coming up everywhere. If you go out and everywhere you look around, there are trees everywhere. Maintaining the trees is the problem that we have. If we're having some kind of tree ordinance where the city's going to go into private property and try to tell them what to do with their own trees, it might be a good idea for them to maintain them and keep them safe if they got a big giant tree. So you get a tree, and it should be at least 38 inches, but even with a 38-inch tree, so you have a 38-inch tree in a urban setting, it's going to be a big giant tree. So you come into the city and say, okay, well, we're going to say no on that tree because it's a historic tree. So what the city does then is they're in liability because that's a big tree. If it falls over, they're going to say, well, I came to the city to try to cut it down. Do we really want to take on the liability of telling people how to maintain their own safety on their own property? That we started out this meeting with the fire department, and he was talking about all the fires. I seen a homeless person doing a fire right along the freeway. Fires burn because of all the fuel. We need to be encouraging people to do their maintenance on their property, cutting their trees, reducing the amount of fire, not making it harder, delaying it, making it more complicated. I read this last night and I couldn't sleep. I was very angry. I had to pray through and quote some scriptures over myself. But anyways, I'd say no. Send it back. Make it simple like it's supposed to be, and take the property owner to
Let's finish public comment. We have one more or two
We
more?
do. Thank you. Up
Okay.
next, we have Warren
I'll
Jensen.
get back to you.
Mine's short.
Okay. Welcome.
Council, thank you. Planning Commission and Planning Commissioner perspective. Councilor Smith, I'm kind of your counterpart on the Planning Commission. We talked about this a lot. I'm trying to wordsmith and trying to figure out what's the best way forward. The existing ordinance right now is exceedingly strict. And I just want to put the point on that we need to change that now rather than later. I wish that I was able to come here on the original meeting that we discussed this in January. I was sick, unfortunately, but my message then was going to be that we recognize that we don't have what we think is a perfect ordinance, but we found that we were in a situation where we kept wanting to wordsmith, kept wanting to come back to it, and we were impeding progress in search of perfection, and we weren't going to get anywhere if we were doing that. And I want to encourage us to even if you want to make small changes here, to go ahead and pass what we have now, because we want to continue to work on the tree ordinance and make it better as we go through. But right now, I mean, I live in the foothill overlay myself, trying to do, we want to do a lot more in terms of fire safe management projects up on my property. Pretty much anything that I want to do is against the current ordinance without going through the city and getting a bunch of expensive tree permits. That's not the way to move forward. At least with the existing ordinance that we've proposed, I would be able to get into my backyard and create a fire-safe landscape. So, anything else? A comment on the 24 inches. We left that in. That was from the existing ordinance, and we left it in at that level just because for the very large trees, we didn't want, Joe Q, whoever, he or she with no experience to go and try and cut large trees themselves. We want to get a professional, make sure a professional comes in so there's not additional damage somewhere else. And so we wanted to keep it at the 24 just for that reason. And yeah, the foothill overlay exception, we were talking about that. I mean, I guess I've already mentioned this. I live in the foothill overlay myself, and it's really to provide an exception for us property owners to go and do fire safe treatments on our own properties. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, there's three, I think, edits that Councilman Smith, just to reiterate, the larger girth of the tree, property size, and instead of all trees, oak trees. So I think that could easily be edited and brought back for us to have a better ordinance than what we currently have in front of us, which wouldn't take that much time to make those edits. Or if the council, I think it'd be possible to approve that with those edits. Is that correct?
So what you'd need to do is you'd need to make a motion to amend the ordinance, and then it would need to come back for another reading. At the final reading, it needs to be passed without any changes to it.
Okay. Okay.
So you want to
Just a comment. So are you suggesting to remove the diameter completely?
Well, you said to 38.
Right, and again, I was just using a number of the San Jose. I mean, even at that, that's still somewhat restrictive. I mean, my gut is I don't like it at all.
I don't like it at all.
But then you could just eliminate B altogether because C takes care of the oak trees because it cites section 17.12.065.
There's a state code.
And that catches all of that, in there with all the oak tree issues, I think. I think it does.
I think if you held it at 38, at least if we got into a problem, we'd have to join with San Jose. They would join with us. And we all be happy with 38. It's just a
38
comment.
inches is a pretty big tree. My only, just an anecdotal story, real quick. I know that Ms. Johnston's up there. But I lived in Sacramento County, Orangeville, in my other life. I was in a 3-story home there on a ranch, 26-acre ranch in Orangeville, and there was a heritage tree there, oak, valley oak, and it had a massive limb over the top of my bedroom, and it was getting, it didn't look very healthy. It was a very old tree. Loved the tree, amazing shade, but when we had windstorms, I got scared. My wife and I, we did not sleep in the bedroom during a windstorm. I had to contact the city or the county arborist, Sacramento. Nope, we want to give that tree another year. Just want to take a limb off. And I asked him, would you sleep in that bedroom during a windstorm? Of course, he didn't answer me. But, and that just to this day, that kind of just gnaws at me that tree is more important than my son's life, my wife's life, or my life. And I just found that strange. That's kind of where we are. But why did I say that story? Because when it comes to the part of this ordinance here, that we are going to relegate the determining factor of whether or not a permit's approved or certain situations are mitigated, and that's in other language in this ordinance, that it's given over to the city, that it's a city a bureaucrat is going to let me know whether or not I can trim my tree in my yard. It's going back to the issue of the size thing. So we are going to lose some freedom. Some would argue we're going to gain some freedom because it's not as arduous as the previous. But since we're touching it, there is that element, and that bothers me a little bit because then some bureaucrat somewhere in City Hall. Now I love our city staff today, but things change, and I'm just voicing at this moment. That's a concern.
I think Councilman Thompson needs to finish.
Yeah, thank you. I would like something, Wes, if possible. There is this element to this that keeps being brought up about heritage trees in our town. And there are, in our community, we all have different perspectives of what it means to be in a community together, and all of that. But there is this aspect of heritage trees that keeps being brought up of wanting to protect our heritage trees. And I brought up an idea a couple times when we've discussed this, in that a voluntary heritage tree protection status within the city, where if somebody owns a property and they have a tree that's over 24 inches, I mean, actually, you know, some of these trees, like a crepe myrtle, and we have some in town that are smaller, but they're, really well respected as a beautiful tree, and those probably won't even get to that size. What's that?
No, I say never.
Right. So if somebody lives on a property and they would like to have their tree be brought into the heritage tree protected status within the city of Orrville, they're voluntarily giving up some of their own freedom to take care or to cut that tree out. And as well, somebody who buys that property from them, there's that understanding. I'm buying a tree I'm buying a property that has a tree that I, going into it, know that I can't just cut that thing down. I am for sure for something like that because it's not us going in and taking somebody's rights away from them. It's somebody that owns a property saying, I have a tree that for such and such criteria, I want it to be protected. And then at that point forward, that wish is respected and kind of stewarded by this city. I think if we did that, we would get away from you'd satisfy those that want to protect that. You'd help protect our heritage trees. You wouldn't necessarily be just infringing on people's own rights to take care of their own property, and we'd be protecting some of these heritage trees. I'm sure people in the community who are definitely more loving of trees than even I am, that they would even take this upon themselves to let people know, to ask people if they want to volunteer the tree into the heritage program, all that stuff. So it could be something that would be a win-win for people who want freedom and those who want to protect trees. If we could do that, that'd be awesome.
So just to clarify, you are suggesting that the heritage tree be defined by the property owner by choice and eliminating the 38 inches or any other diameter in there. Okay.
Is that doable? No.
I'm not sure you can have if you want to define the heritage tree, you need to define the heritage tree.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can say, well, you can't cut down a heritage tree as long as the property owner defines what their own heritage tree is. I mean, it's.
Well, you could have people that, we have a list of the properties, right? We know what properties we have in the city. Why can't we, since we have all these different classifications, why can't we have a list of the heritage trees?
So the heritage trees in our code as defined are just generally large trees. That's
Sure,
what we've defined them as.
But we
do voluntarily allow property owners, and we would classify that as a landmark designation. So within our definition of a landmark, it does include property improvements, trees, etc. That is a voluntary process where the property owner can apply for a landmark designation, and it would be approved by the Historic Advisory Commission, and any modifications to that landmark would have to go through the landmark modification permit process. That's currently on the books through our section 17.48.040.
So instead of calling it heritage landmark, whatever tree, then you could even have their own little plaque, landmark tree number 56.
We have that.
Yeah, we already have.
Great, then that could be the status of protecting the trees.
You're not protecting any trees then, is what you're saying. What you're saying is keep whatever you want, cut whatever you want.
Yes. If it's your property and you need to, want to, cut the
Okay,
tree down.
if that's what you would like, then you need to then take this.
That's what I've
and-
said like 5 times from here.
Oh, I know. And what I'm saying is if it's the will of the council, then you can take this ordinance and gut it and say, there are no tree regulations.
I've said that like 4 times from here.
I know. I'm not sure that's gonna sustain a CEQA challenge. I don't think you'll get a CEQA
So,
challenge.
so then there's
but I
CEQA, which
don't
is
think that
state.
would-
So last time we talked about this, I said I know there's state regulations, right?
Right.
We call them CEQA.
Well, it's,
So the state already has regulations, or we call it, CEQA. There's already regulations in place, correct?
There are various CEQA requirements. Oak woodlands are defined, a certain percentage of coverage of oak trees on a property, et cetera. Maybe what we should do here is to go back and look at CEQA case law and make sure that what we do here is
Yes.
bring back a
I'd be fine
very
with that.
clear.
Okay.
If that's the
Whatever's
desire of the council.
Whatever's
then we can do
required
that.
by CEQA.
an analysis that way. Councilman Johnstone, I saw you,
Yeah.
are you still up? Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm 100% for, in agreement. I believe that property owners should have the right to maintain their trees and stuff, but we have liabilities on all different kinds of things that we have as property owners, and I think that's part of having property insurance, is if you do something, and it damages something other than your own property, then the insurance is gonna cover that, right? So I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but, I mean, I'm in agreement. I believe that we should have more of a right than the city to decide how we want to maintain our trees.
Councilman Riggs, I'm going to go with you. Mr. Smith, you've had enough time on this topic, so I'm going to.
I'm not even, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
no.
Thanks.
Councilman Riggs.
I just want to say that I appreciate the effort and work on the
Ordinance.
ordinance. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm so frustrated that
Yeah.
I've lost words, and am in favor of it as written.
Okay. Seeing any other comments?
There's a public comment.
We had public comment already, didn't we?
We did have public comment already.
Yes, we already had public comment. You want to come back up again?
I just have a.
Come up to the podium if you're going to speak, so we get it on record.
I appreciate you letting me speak again. Sometimes when comment first, things come up, and then the public doesn't get to respond to the actual things that are going to be changing the city.
Right.
And this, again, is a Tree City USA. It's a Tree City USA because every council prior to this has protected the trees. I am 43 years old. I am as old as this city has been Tree USA. I'm not against some protection. I'm not against not protecting everything, but there has to be a balance. If 24 is wrong, I think 38 is wrong. Maybe we can come down to 30. And heritage trees, no matter what species they are, if they're big, they're a heritage tree. They're older than we are. They're going to be here long after we're gone. Those trees are the trees that provide the economy, the ecosystem, the wildlife that you say is so prevalent. It's because trees create kilometers of branches that allow birds to create habitat, hunt, provide safety. Trees are not just for us. We are the benefit of trees. So trees need to be protected utmost. You want to cut a 6-inch tree down? Go ahead. A 6-inch tree can grow before you die, and it can be there for your children and your children's children. But we look at these communities that once you can go look in other cities. I don't have an example right now because I wasn't prepared to speak. But when these types of things happen, 10, 15 years down the road, when everybody here is not in charge, the community is going to be, what the heck happened? And so I'm here to accept this ordinance as written and to do what the community needs. And I'm sorry that there aren't people here that are saying, I need to cut my tree down. But I don't see them. I see people who are just trying to petition to not have control or to have more control of themselves. And I'm not against lack of control or lack of regulation, because I have some other things I want to talk about tonight that go along with that method. But trees are important. We have shade, we are 115 degrees in the summer. So somebody wants to be miserable and sit in the sun. Well, they can go to Bedrock Park, because those 4 oak trees that used to shade that whole park are now dead. So we either take care of our trees or we are going to force our homeowners to cut them out. So thank you. I'm sorry, I'm frustrated, but the trees need to stay.
Thanks, sir.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, Councilman Johnstone, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I don't think anybody here is saying take out the trees. I think what we're saying is we should be afforded the opportunity to make the decision for the trees that are on our land, on our property that we own. So I love trees. Everyone on this council loves trees. So I think that the point is we should have a right to decide if we feel a tree is unsafe in our yard. We should have a right to make our property safe. I think that's what the consensus is.
Okay.
So I'm
No,
sorry that
okay.
you're so
No.
upset, but
The home insurance claim, the possibility with the home insurance allowing you to take any type of tree, if they write you a report saying it needs to come out due to safety,
Right.
I think that solves all of your guys' concerns.
Well, and that's a comment I was going to make. Whatever ordinance we have, it doesn't really matter. The fire insurance company is going to tell us what trees are going to exist, period. That's a fact, because you won't be able to get insurance, and that's happening to many of the people that I live around right now.
Yep.
If there's a tree within 10 feet, you better take it down.
Yep.
Period. That's just the way it is. The other factor is the utility workers. The utility companies have the right to remove trees that threaten their infrastructure, and that doesn't even part of this ordinance. So what we're writing here is just guidance for a niche of trees. And right now, I'm kind of, I should entertain a motion, or do we want to give direction to staff to get it back?
Mr. Mayor, I would prefer whatever action you take, let's do it by motion.
Okay, so do I entertain a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we send this back to staff based on the conversation for some additional clarification with CEQA, and in particular with CEQA, that we don't trigger a CEQA action by potentially allowing a little bit more freedom with larger diameter tree size, and also a larger lot size.
Let me help identify your motion. You basically want to bring it back to staff to look at CEQA with your 3 suggestions. Would they cause a CEQA problem? Is that a better definition?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay,
And
that's
the
the motion.
3 are
Yes.
square footage of the property,
Size of tree.
diameter of the tree.
Yep.
What's the third?
And the
The species of the tree.
yeah, those 3.
So what specifically on the species? I want to make sure. Just no.
Are there any protected species?
Yeah. Do a protected species fall under CEQA analysis? Okay? Is that?
Yeah, that's
all right?
that's good.
That's a motion. Do I hear?
second it.
We got a motion.
I would just like to remind council that they should follow up with staff independently and not wait for it to come back to this council again.
Thank you. Good suggestion. Good suggestion. All right. We have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll.
I'm sorry, just one moment. Who seconded that? Thank you.
Councilman Paul.
And the motion in a second is to
Clarification.
clarification on the CEQA impacts of
Those
the
3
impact
items.
of those on CEQA.
Right.
And then bring back modifications conforming with CEQA, provide,
If CEQA tells us we've got to do it this
Okay.
way, then that, otherwise, if we don't, then those 3 things would like to be added to this ordinance. Is that correct in clarifying? Okay,
Can I,
please do.
do you want us to push this to the limit of what you think CEQA will allow us to do?
Yeah,
Is that the general consensus?
there you go.
Okay.
Good idea. All right, we'll call the roll, please. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 no.
I would also,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just real quick, on the Councilwoman Riggs' comment, I actually did have some conversation today with staff, and then also we get these, these agendas Friday, and sometimes this is just part of that process. I mean, I know it's frustrating, but, we don't have a lot of time to totally digest this information, and that's what this process is about, so that's just my thoughts
We've
on
had
it.
this conversation 3 other times.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're getting
still in
closer.
the same
Okay,
spot.
I'm going to close the public hearing on this item because this was a public hearing. Thank you. All right, now we're going to get back to item, let's see, where was
We have two
it?
more public hearings.
Oh, is there?
Yes, there is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
18 and 19.
18, thank you very much. Number 18, the public hearing continues, to the second reading of the zoning amendment ZC 24-02, changing the section title from section second dwelling units to accessory dwelling units and amending the municipal code section 1716.010.
You,
Wes, have this?
council members, I apologize for the hoarseness of my voice. It's just something that's here tonight. This is a second reading of the new accessory dwelling unit ordinance, replacing existing second home ordinance as it was previously labeled. This includes the two changes desired by council. The first is adding section O, requiring occupancy to be 60 days or longer, which was added by the council. And the second is changing development standard number 11 relating to very high fire hazard zones. We hope that we have made those changes in accordance with the council's wish and recommend approval.
Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, we do have one speaker card on this
All right,
item.
public comment, please.
All right, Brian Williams, you're up.
We also have Lark McNeil as a panelist in case there are questions.
Come on up.
Hello, thank you guys again. Welcome to spring. I am a resident of Oroville. I'm also a general contractor. I want to start off by saying I was so excited when I heard that the city was going to update the second dwelling ordinance. Last council meeting, I was not able to make it, but I was able to watch the meeting. And reading the agenda packet, I was very excited to see that, sorry, I got lost. I read the first draft as presented to council 2 weeks ago, and I was even more pleased to see that the thoroughness of the first proposal. Most important to me, and probably many others who aren't able or willing or afraid to speak up, was about the exclusion of mandating a minimum 30 or 60-day stay and deed restrictions. I would like to open the dialogue again about this change, because as it was first presented, it quelled my need to speak up. So I am here today after reading the second presentation, and I feel the utmost need to speak up as the ordinance changed by Oroville requiring, I saw it as a 30-day somewhere in there, but you're mentioning it's 60, so I wasn't sure if it was 30 or 60, so quote me, or correct me if I'm incorrect, but it now has a minimum stay and deed restrictions on your title. So my understanding is that this city, and as we've already heard tonight, the city's founding and operates on a minimum oversight and overreach perspective. The change that was made to the second dwelling ordinance that requires a 30-day or 60-day minimum stay is, in my opinion, a very bad decision. The state left the choice up to the city. This city has paid a consultant to draft the proposal for this new ordinance. This proposal went through the Planning Commission. It was presented to you guys 2 weeks ago, and now it was almost universally accepted by this council, as was. But today, there's now this new restriction. I believe the update stifles innovation. It should put the brakes on our city's marketing campaign as to what direction the city wants to go and what types of business and visitors it wants to attract. Entrepreneurs and citizens alike should have the right to choose how one's property is used within reason, and a reason that a person, entity, whomever wants to invest in this community, whether for business or for extended family purposes, this city should be assisting and encouraging them and their investment all along the way. I hereby suggest that the 30/60-day minimum stay plus deed restriction provision be removed from this reading. If we were to consider a smaller minimum stay, if it cannot be eliminated entirely, I propose at most a 7-day minimum stay without deed restrictions. That would allow entrepreneurs and homeowners alike to have more resources for ADU financing of the build and show more and different income options. Our city needs market rate housing, and that requires flexible thinking on terms of how you get there. Thank you very much for listening to my opinion. If you could please give me 1 more minute, my wife also wrote something, I'd like to read it. It's very quick. My wife, she travels extensively for work. She travels singly, she's a woman, she has to many, many places by herself. She extensively uses Airbnbs and short-term hosts because hotels are not a safe place for a traveling woman. So, however, the idea of restricting occupancy to a minimum amount of days is very discouraging because it diminishes the ability for professionals. Diminishes the ability for professionals, interns, students, and visitors to find short-term stay options with a home feel, safe environment. My wife has spent so much time traveling solo for work due to safety concerns, she never stays at hotels. I book short-term rentals only with a private entrance, which are highly coveted for solo professionals who travel for work. I also know several instances where folks encountering the construction of their own home have, for short periods of time, utilized short-term rentals because it provided them some consistency instead of living under construction. The whole point of this new ADU ordinance the state is putting forth is about providing options, which means having flexibility, not restrictions. Thank you guys very much for your time.
I do need to clarify that the ordinance does say 30 days. It does not say 60 days. Mr. Williams is correct there.
Okay. Vice Mayor Smith is on the queue.
We agree. Yeah, it comes back to personal rights. And so whenever that comes up, I tend to fall on that side of the equation, which is just kind of ironic to the previous conversation. So it is 30 days, because I see in here the 60. And again, it comes back to, because in our community, we all know we've been faced with, issues of disaster, having to have a lot of contractors in our area from time to time. Of course, we have the college, and just we have a lot of traveling nurses that just has become the norm of the day. And I think that the mayor mentioned some concern about generating additional traffic concerns. I think going back to that 30-day, I mean, I'd be more in favor of like 14 days where you could accommodate, that people that are traveling, the contractors that are coming to work on the dam. There's a whole bunch of contractors right now working on the dam. We all saw that. And sometimes housing is a problem for these folks. And so, if we had in the future a problem where we started having traffic issues within residential areas because of the short-term use, then I guess that could be tackled at that time. But I personally would like to see a 14-day. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. I think we have to have some limit on that because we don't want to turn it into a hotel night by night. But to accommodate the traveling public professionals that service our community, I think we need to, and whatever that number is, whether it's 14 days or 30 days may work, but I would be inclined to go with a 14-day. I've said enough at the moment.
Mark?
One of the things that I need to mention for you, if you have a 14, if you put it anything below 30 days, then you're going to have an issue with transient occupancy tax.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And registration. You're going to have an additional layer of burden on the individual for registration. One of the things, and I'm speaking just from a more philosophical point, the purpose of these ADUs was to provide additional housing, not short-term housing, but housing. And so 30 days and less doesn't allow for the majority of individuals. You're talking about, for example, you mentioned some of the contract nurses. Contract nurses predominantly are on 90-day plus contracts.
And they are.
And so if you take a lot of, if you have a lot of ADUs that are built or junior ADUs that are built and are limited to, if you have the 14-day limit, if a lot of them choose to do just Airbnb, they won't really get in the category of additional housing because they're going to be used for one-off, 1, 2, 3 nights here and there. Almost nobody will rent them for 14 days because you're looking at a rate of what would be like a hotel night. So,
yeah, and you do subject them to the T-bid, which is 2%, and the TOT, which is 6% for an additional 8% a night, which is a good. I didn't think about that.
yeah, it does add a layer of complexity, and I'm not arguing for or against either. I'm just saying, throwing it out there as a consideration.
Right.
It does add a layer of complexity
It
to
does.
it with additional regulation and additional permits and that kind of stuff.
Well, I appreciate that comment too. One of the questions that was posed to me, and I didn't have an answer, is what if the building owner that has an ADU rents that to a company, and that company provides that unit for 1 or 2 days at a time. Is that satisfied in the ordinance, or is that something that's scooting around the ordinance?
So if a company rents it for, and I'll use, again, the traveling nurse example. If the company says, we're going to rent it for 90 days, and they pay the whole 90 days,
Right.
whether someone is there for 1 day or 2 days, irrelevant. The company has paid for the 90 days, they get the 90 days, they are responsible for assigning someone in there, right?
Yeah.
You're outside of the TOT, you're outside of some of these other.
T-bid.
Yeah, companies can certainly do that.
Right. And I'm just, the question that came to me is, what if a building owner had a separate company, LLC or something, and that ADU is leased to that company, and then they operate it as,
Yeah, so the person who is staying the night has to have an employment connection to the company
another company, okay,
for it to be outside of this
gotcha. Okay.
TOT. Otherwise, you're just skirting around the transient occupancy
Right,
issue.
right, and that's what the question came to me,
Yeah.
so, all right.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I would recommend that now, I always recommend, maximum, liability protection. If they want to set it up as an LLC, that's fine. But it would need to be the same LLC as the property owner.
Sure.
You see what
gotcha.
I'm saying? You can't have one person that owns the property, that owns the home, that owns the unit, and then they rent it to an LLC, and then the LLC is going to go ahead and then rent it out. The LLC would then be responsible for, for the TOT, and it doesn't really get around.
Well, and the other question was, say they sign it up to a Airbnb or Venmo or whatever these companies are, and that company brings that customer in.
That's correct.
Would that satisfy the ordinance, or would that be in conflict with the ordinance?
Well, no, they're still going to have to comply with whatever the ordinance is.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council members?
I just
I'm
want,
good.
just to clarify, because it says 60 days in here, but you're saying it is 30? 'Cause
30.
the-
Twice, at the top it's listed at 60 and somewhere else inside it does say 30.
Back to, the attorney needs, so the ordinance itself says 30 days? Even though the staff report's wrong then?
It should, I actually saw it in the ordinance at 60. It should be 30 days. Is that what you said?
Yes, page 238 of the ordinance, number 2 at the top of the page says 30 days.
But the request was to bring it back at 60, if my memory serves me correctly. And that's what the staff report says, and that's what it says on page 230. That was the request.
And it was, and I
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah.
distinct
Yeah.
conversation.
That was
I'm
the
just saying, I'm good
request.
with the 30 if we could just keep it as it was, and we can just adopt it as it stands. There's a conflict between the staff report and the ordinance, but
What page was that you said?
238, you said?
Yes, the top of page 238.
Oh, but this is Lart, Wes, but on page 230, under definition of, or under purpose of secondary dwelling units, it reads, all accessory dwelling units must be rented out for terms longer than 60 days.
There
And
you
that
go.
is my error, not Wes's.
On page 232 as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 238 should be corrected to say 60 then.
Well, it's what does this council want to do
Yeah.
on that issue?
Yes.
30 or 60?
Yeah.
The original was 30, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
That was.
I would approve the initial.
30? Looks like consensus here is, can we amend that with the 30-day period?
You can amend it to 30 if you'd like, and I'd prefer that we do that by motion. This is
Okay.
the second reading, so it would need to, because you're making an amendment to it, it would need to come back. And I would recommend that we put it on consent. If
Consent.
you want it to be 30, make that
Consent is
motion,
fine,
and we'll put it
yeah.
on consent.
I hear a motion.
So I approve the second reading with the amendment of 30 days, and it'll be brought back.
I second.
Motion seconded. Call the roll, please.
It's done. It's done.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Motion passes unanimously.
Appreciate the comments. Item number 19. Was that under public hearings too?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
okay.
5:15 public hearing.
Public hearing continued from December 19th, 2023, Feather River Recreation Park District Nexus Fee Study and Proposed Fee Increases.
I'll take this, Mr. Mayor. And
Yes.
again, this is the, back in December, the council directed staff to work to allow Feather River Rec and Park District time to hire a new general manager and then work with the general manager to answer a number of questions that the council raised. As I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, we started that discussion yesterday, actually, the executive committee team, due to the fact that the Feather River Rec and Park District has not yet secured a new general manager. So we've worked with Feather River. We're proposing to continue this till May 21st to allow more dialogue to take place.
Okay. Any questions about that from staff? All right, then we'll call, as that item will be continued till at least the May 21st, 2024, I will close the public hearing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now we get back to item number
15.
15, which was the 4th of July fireworks contribution options.
Just for the record, I'm
He's
recusing
gone.
myself for the next two items.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir, Vice Mayor. Item number 15, the 4th of July fireworks contribution options. I'll just go ahead and read this as Councilman Weber and myself brought this forward as an agenda item, making a contribution to the Orville Economic Alliance to help offset the cost of the annual 4th of July fireworks show. There is a show being planned. This is the amount of money we have in our fund for this, is that correct?
Correct. We have $20,000 budgeted. We allocated $4,000 out recently, and so there's $16,000 remaining in the fund. Last year we allocated $10,000 the city contribution towards the fireworks program last year.
I would like to encourage that this is a donation that was challenge others to match that amount. So that whatever the fireworks show will become, I know they're arranging it. What's the pleasure of the council?
What fund does this come out of?
It's the enhanced, actually
It's
it's not
the
a fund, it's an
enhancement.
account, actually, yeah, the community enhancement account, I believe, is that what?
That-
16 of that fund, yeah.
So,
I think so, and I know that some of the planning is potentially a drone show versus the fireworks exploding show, if that can be made, put together. On a drone show, the discussion has been over the Feather River, encouraging everybody to be shopping downtown for the 4th of July event. It's a new idea, and I think that by us taking the lead and saying, let's start the show and let's get her on, we'll see maybe something happen.
so is there a zero balance?
There would be in this fund.
What I might recommend is, I know we have another item on here that's gonna make a request at some contribution on the next item, maybe leave a little bit,
Okay.
Yeah. I would not vote for depleting that account.
Okay. Make a motion.
I move that we, let's see, 10,000? I think that's a good number, yeah. There's 16 in the budget now for that. So we don't want to deplete it when we still have the chamber coming up. So I move to allocate 10,000
I'll second
for the
that.
fireworks.
An additional?
Making it 26.
No.
Well, no, it would be 10,000 from us and then hopefully an in-kind donation, right?
Right.
yeah, that's what
Okay.
you're saying.
Sure, please do, yeah.
So I think the minimum buy-in for the fireworks to even start is 20,000 just to get the conversation going. That's our minimum. And so if we got, what do we got, 16 in there now? I would make a motion that we put another 14 in there, so for a total of 30 into the account, and that we would come in at the $20,000 initial buy-in, and then that way we cover that initial cost and then allow the chamber to go after all the additional funds, because they've got several months, so then we could give them more time to get it up to whatever they can by like funds being donated back.
So what I heard you say was put an additional 14,000, and that would come from,
That would come from, from whatever fund we took it out of last time. I can't remember, Ruth, where did we take it out of last time?
this
We just
enhancement.
allocated fund balance. We didn't get it from anywhere, we just allocated it from fund balance. So we didn't take it from any other budget, it was just taken
Okay.
out of fund balance.
So where did we get the original then from when we did it last year for?
We took it from fund balance, but then this year we actually budgeted a line for 20,000.
Okay. So then, can we do the same thing?
You guys can decide to do whatever you want to do, yeah.
So 4,000 was spent of that, right? And that's how
Correct.
we're getting to 16,000
Correct.
that's in there.
Correct.
Well, I made a motion.
Just, what was
And-
your
I'll
motion?
just
So,
caution,
my
obviously,
motion was-
using fund balances, it's, you never know exactly, correct me if I'm wrong, Ruth, how much is there. So it's not a exact science. I mean, we do have a little bit of money left if the council wishes to do this, a little bit left in the fiscal recovery, but, I know we have I've talked to a few of you about other things you'd like to see that money used for. So again, the money's it's depleting.
So the motion was, just to remind me, what was your motion? I forgot.
To allocate 10,000 out of the 16,000
Okay.
for the fireworks.
Do I hear a second?
I seconded that earlier.
Okay.
And then we have
Motion.
another
This
motion.
one, there was a second on it already.
So, but yeah, I would like to add 14 to that, but I'm confused because,
You could make a
You
second
can make a
motion.
second
sure,
motion.
okay.
Yeah. So what's your second motion?
My second motion is to add 14 to the existing 16,
And then allocate how much to the fireworks?
20,000.
I second that motion.
Okay. Now, correct me, we have to vote on that now, correct?
Right, second motion first.
Second one.
Goes first.
Okay. So for all of you to understand, we're going to be voting on the second motion, correct? Clarify it again one more time so we all understand.
Adding to the existing 16,000, an additional 14,000, making our community enhancement fund funded at 30,000, and then allocating 20,000 to the chamber to front load the minimum purchase of fireworks and allow them to do donations.
Gotcha.
If I can make just a comment on that.
Sure.
So for me, this is, for most of our citizens, obviously, we know that there's some that don't like the fireworks, but this is one, event that our community, most of the community really enjoys. And so it's, it's just something that reaffirms our patriotism and what our country's gone through and all that. So,
Under the motion, we have two councilman questions, or you're already talking, so got you. Councilman Briggs, you're under the motion.
Thanks. My comment was that I think that it's really important for us to uphold the budget that we've set forth unless in dire circumstances. And so for me, adding and reallocating funds kind of haphazardly or based on passion and patriotism doesn't line up. And I would also say that our citizens also really enjoy fiscal conservation, public safety, and general community improvements that are planned, not, and that they do value those things. A party is great, but I don't think that should be the focus of our efforts.
And if I could, again, forgive me, but I have to be the city attorney for a moment. The motion that you made is to readjust the budget. Budget adjustments require a 5/7 vote of the council. So if you want to modify your motion so that you would simply be funding this item at $20,000, that would not require a modification to the budget. But how you said it was you wanted to add $14,000 to that fund from general fund or from fund balance.
Right.
Which would be an amendment to the budget. So, again, your motion, however you want to make it, but how it was. How the
I will
motion
amend
was-
it.
Yeah, how the motion was made would require a 5/7 vote.
Okay.
So So what I
Correct.
would say is keep it limited to this item. If you want to have just a simple majority and fund it at whatever number you want to fund it at, with the balance coming from.
16,000 would be
with
what's
the-
left.
Yeah, with the difference coming from fund balance.
So, okay,
But that would require a budget adjustment.
It wouldn't. Fund balance has money in it. Okay, but you have a pot of money somewhere that has dollars in it. Is it reserve? Is it, what,
Appropriated in the budget, so fund balance is not appropriated.
but do you have reserve, or do you have, wherever the money is, he can say, spend it out of that category?
Which is 5-2 vote.
So you could do 16.
And everybody pay
I
for
will
their own
amend my-
ticket for Chamber of Commerce dinner.
Yeah.
Don't plan for anything else the rest of the
Don't plan for
year.
anything else. And there's other nonprofits that are, anticipating, because this is what we use this fund for. But if we spend it all on fireworks and there's zero,
Right.
I guess I can't come to council and ask them to, finance a table or two.
So I have a question on that matter, if I may.
Sure, please.
Yeah.
Start of the
Because
question.
we make decisions all the time that are in regards to funds. But every time we make decisions based on funds, we don't make a budget adjustment. We have asked the question several times in the years I've been here. And, especially when Art Hatley was here, what account is that coming out of?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure necessarily why for this specific situation where we're having to do that kind of gymnastics to do something that it seems like before with other things where we wouldn't have to necessarily make a specific budget adjustment, just money would come out of certain accounts. I mean, we did it before and we didn't have even a budget item for it. So how did we do it before without a budget item and not needing to make it budget adjustments?
It's because the whole council voted unanimously, so you had your 5/7.
For what?
to fund it
For
originally?
the establishment
Correct.
of that fund.
But
To fund, okay.
So we have this fund, which we can use that money towards fireworks.
Yes.
So the fund isn't specifically the fireworks fund.
Correct. It's
It is
community
what,
enhancement.
Community Enhancement Fund.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So we can use money that's in the Community Enhancement Fund.
Yep.
But we can also use money that's in
Somewhere that's not appropriated, so it would need a
somewhere
5/7.
else,
Yeah.
that can be, doesn't have to be a budget adjustment, just, there's money coming out of this one and there's money coming out of that one. I don't know why before we didn't have to make a budget adjustment just to use
If I
that.
may, I think, so like, for example, like the LVT trailer, is that kind of one, it wasn't obviously budgeted and we did
Tons
that?
of items, yeah.
Okay, so that was one where we used some of our fiscal recovery, and it was a 7-0 vote.
Yeah. That's why, that essentially was a budget adjustment by the vote of the 7. That's why he's saying, so. Councilman Johnstone?
Right.
Okay, so just help me understand. So last year, we had a surplus of monies, right, that hadn't been allocated yet, that you could pull from to fund this fund, correct? I mean, I'm not sure. I hear what Councilman Weber and Thompson are saying about it just seems like it was easy to do it. And maybe because we all voted on it, you just didn't say that we were going to make an adjustment.
Correct.
But I'm wondering, is it more difficult now to find the money because we've allocated it all everywhere already in the budget?
Well, it's
or-
we just budgeted 20,000. That's what council appropriated. So if you want to make it more, we need to get the appropriations from somewhere else and council can set that. It will require a budget adjustment. These other ones that you're saying that were easy, they all passed unanimously over 5 votes. But the way our budget policy is written is that these staff reports that go through and you're using unallocated funds, unappropriated funds, I should say, the budget adjustment is implied. So we just haven't been as careful as we are tonight to say that.
So if we 5 to 7 voted to do this, where would the additional
Fund
funds
balance.
come from? Fund balance. Okay. What is in that balance? Do we know?
It
Offhand?
changes every year depending on our surplus or deficit, but it's millions.
Okay.
I would recommend if you're going to do that, there is a little bit in the fiscal recovery funds, then you know exactly where it's coming from.
That's what I was hoping for. And then there's even, the next item on here is gonna probably be requesting some money for the table, right? And then there might potentially throughout the year be some nonprofits that are needing something, and that's where the money would go to as well.
That was my concern, if you deplete the fund for
Right.
one project, what does that say about the other people that are going to be coming to,
So this was-
request, have that same request?
And to my
So-
point before of putting more money in there, I mean, I was
Yeah.
allocating before for
Bingo.
$100,000 to put in the community enhancement fund. But, we made it so
Yep.
that we're now,
That's
squeezing
why
the
we were
last bit
asking
of
for
toothpaste out
50,000
of.
before.
Okay.
It was the reason why we were advocating for 50,000 or above before was for this exact reason. So say, for instance, the Martin Luther King, right? As we see you guys do every single year, you give scholarships to those students, then we could,
Yes, we do.
we could do stuff like that. That was the reason that we would do that, not just fireworks. And by the way, I'm going to be asking for a huge budget increase on this next year because I think this is incredibly important for us to instill a sense of community pride and have a lot of fun with this. And to the mayor's point, when he brought up the drone displays, I mean, the drone displays, if you could have a really, really cool drone display, and we could actually do it right above downtown, right here. But they're pretty expensive. I mean, what are they, about $40,000?
That's a
know.
guesstimate, but the other thing about drones is it changes just the celebration to actually marketing, because I'm
Yeah.
told that you can actually put pictures, kayaking, and things to where you're marketing the town instead of just having a fireworks celebration.
Exactly.
So I think the Community Enhancement Fund obviously needs some adjustment.
Yep.
But the question tonight is on this issue.
Okay.
What's the motion? I know we've had some definitions. Do you have an amendment? to
I
the
do. I
motion?
will amend it, and then but I have a question. And I don't know if it's appropriate if we talk about the next item during this item, because I just want to know what is the cost of that table? Because, okay, so Councilmember Goodson made a motion for 10,000. So obviously, Councilmember Thompson and I are trying to fund it for as much as we can, but clearly we're not going to have a 5-2 vote right here. So we can't get across the finish line. So what about $12,000 from our account rather than 10,000?
That's your motion? Do I
Is
hear
my
a
motion.
second?
So that's the third motion.
That's.
Well, I think
we
we
can
I think you
adjust
withdrew
He
the
he
motion.
amended his
Okay,
motion.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
amended
yeah, I
That's his
amended mine,
second
yeah.
motion.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine, I'll second that, but I will say that it's possible with this motion, I know that might even be squeezing, as much as we can get out of this council for this approval. Just so we're clear, it's possible that we won't have fireworks this year. Because I know last year, we
Yep.
did 20, and I think it was 10 and 10, right? We did 10
In
and then
kind.
10 in kind.
Match.
For every dollar that was given, it was matched. My memory is horrible, is bad, but I remember that being. But anyway, my point being, I want to say it was 10 and 10. And the Chamber of Commerce actually took it in the shorts.
They did.
Because people pledged to give money
Yep.
and then retracted, so.
Gotcha.
People may say.
So if I could, I would rely on the mayor's memory. I know you just stated what happened at that last year, but in prior years, all of 100% of it was fundraised.
Yes.
So Mayor Pittman can tell you what those amounts are. So I think our businesses are used to pitching in and.
They
and-
like to. The
Yeah.
citizens
We used to
like
get
So
about
it's 100%
22,000.
funded by
We had
fundraising.
22,000. We also had the SBF assisted. I think the year before, the SBF covered a certain amount of the deficit.
Yeah.
I don't think we have that in the SBF this year, but it generally was around 22,000 were raised by the communities in terms of that respect. So I mean, to me, your motion is a good start.
And I would just say, you know, start working on next year. It's my understanding you want to take it to the next level.
Right.
Drones. So a committee needs to be formed.
Right.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And figure out how you can generate that. That is a lot of money.
Yes,
And I
it is.
also think for the community enhancement, when we do have projects, there ought to be a cap.
Right.
Because not one organization
No.
should be able to sabotage the majority of the
Right.
funds.
Well, and we just had one for the airport, the EAA, we made a donation there that came out of this fund, correct? So,
4,000.
Yeah. So we have a motion, we have a second on the second motion. Councilman Johnston, are you back up for a question?
I was going to say something, but you already
think we're-
answered it, so.
We're
Okay.
good with 12?
All right, I'll call the roll. We'll call the roll at 12.
Okay.
Hate to be brief, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 recusal.
All right, next item is item number 16.
Councilman Smith.
No, he has to stay out.
Oh, okay, never mind.
This is the April 18th, the Chamber of Commerce Annual Dinner and Award Ceremony. It's a request of the city sponsor a table, as we've done in the past. Due to being held on April 24th, historically, the city council's purchased a table for this event. What's the council's desire here?
Well,
Make a motion, we buy
why
a
not?
table.
I second.
Yes.
Motion and second to buy a table. Call the roll, please, unless there's any clarification needed. All right, we're done. Thank you all.
Oh.
All right, where are we at? You can bring council, Vice Mayor,
12.
well,
No.
No,
We're
no, no.
done.
That was on
Oh,
consent.
gosh.
That was on
No,
consent,
that was
right?
on.
that was on
Consent.
consent. I think we are
Done.
at,
For agenda items, right?
actually, public communication, hearing of any non-agenda items, real quick?
I have none for submitted public comment.
Go ahead.
I don't have any.
Oh, you don't have it?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Future agenda items from the council? Any future agenda item?
Yes.
How
Go
about
ahead.
that gateway?
Go ahead, Councilman Weber.
I just want to revisit the preferred local contractor ordinance that we had discussed some months ago.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll have staff bring it up.
Gateway project.
Gateway project.
I mean, it's been canned down the road for, what,
Right.
3 years now?
Okay, any other projects or future agenda items? Seeing here none, correspondence, we do have, oh, you
I want my dollar back.
want your dollar back?
The gateway.
Correspondence, do we have any correspondence to council, other than we have the monthly report from the police department? Seeing none, the next item I'm seeing here at, is that 7:30?
Yes, it is.
At 7:30, folks.
Not 6.
The meeting will be